Hello and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I'm Mitchell Wolfe.
I hope everyone is enjoying this new Donkey Kong game. I sincerely do.
I like it. I think it's pretty good. That's just me.
Honestly, yeah. You know what? I know it's like pretty obvious that the Donkey Kong podcast person is going to be like, I'm enjoying the Donkey Kong game. But I had no idea I was going to enjoy it this much, Mitchell. Oh my God. This is something else. I took Thursday off, right? I actually tried to go out and about with my life, and but by that I mean I went to some museums because I have a thirst. I have a yearning for knowledge. But when I was out,
they say Thirsty Thursday, that's what they were
talking about. Doing a museum crawl, yeah. But I was hitting up the Science Museum, the Art Museum, some nature centers, and just learning everything I could. And it was great because it made me feel like I was a kid on a field trip. And something else that was making me feel like I was a kid was that I was thinking about coming home and playing this new video game that has just enraptured me, that has just completely claimed my soul right now. And I've not felt this way about a video game, truthfully, since I was a kid. This is a next level of engagement and joy that this game is bringing me, to the point where, yeah, I haven't felt this way since, honestly, Banjo-Kazooie? 1998?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Not saying I haven't enjoyed plenty of games since then, but this is striking a chord with me. It's... Yes, I'm taking my sweet time with it. Okay, so, full disclosure. All right, and this is spoiler-free, everyone. Spoiler-free up until the end of Sublayer 102, the end of Lagoon layer. But I'm 30 hours into the game now. I've played over 30 hours, but I have only reached Sublayer 400.
400, one for each Kong.
I
haven't seen all of them that add up to 400, but there's 400 Kongs.
I have really just been soaking in everything. I've also been documenting everything, which is part of the reason it's been taking so long. Some people are like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you twiddling your thumbs? Why aren't you rushing to the end? Well, I am making sure I don't miss anything. I'm taking screenshots of everything, and I am having a damn giddy time doing it. And I've heard the worries. Okay, I've heard about people that they've been calling in, they've been writing in, they've been saying, hey, I don't really like the pace that you're going with these Kongversation episodes about Bananza. Like, a lot of people say, okay, yeah, maybe each sublayer deserves its own in-depth focus. We get that. But we want to speed up the process here so you can get to the end game, Hyle. And what are you doing? You're devoting a whole episode to the first world. We want you to get to the end. And I hear you. I do understand that. We will be speeding up the process a bit when we start doing double episodes a week in August. Not every week is going to be double Bananza episodes. We're going to mix in some other stuff as well. But we will get there sooner than it seems right now. But, I'm not going to apologize for taking my time, for really savoring this to the last drop, because I know I have a responsibility to DKVine and, to talk about, what everybody wants me to talk about, apparently. I don't know. I've remained remarkably unspoiled, Mitchell. I have dodged so many landmines in the last week plus, but
Well, let's test that. What happens on sub level 705?
I didn't even know there was a sub level 705.
Damn, I think he's right. I think you've done it.
Look, I do understand that, like, most other outlets are already, they've already moved on from this game, but that's not what I'm going to do. And I would hope that my position as one of the true believers of Donkey Kong during the last 11 years affords me the opportunity to enjoy this. And I'm going to be just cranking out these episodes at my own pace, at my own wavelength, and you're welcome to join me if you want. We will get to the end eventually, but I'm loving this game, Mitchell. This is something truly astounding. This is I never thought. I hoped, but if you would have told me 11 years ago that we would have gotten a Donkey Kong game, not of this caliber, but of this sizable impact and this level of innovation, evolution of the genre, I wouldn't have believed you.
It's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal, and it's happening at everyone and not just us, right? Like,
Yes.
Like I loved Ukulele and the Impossible Layer when that came out in 2019. It was so fun to play through, and I saw like, oh, there's Hive Russell. I know that guy. It's a bee, but I also know the guy. This is like the book of the movie. I can recognize it. There's a connection there. And like we were getting really into it, and it is a great game that's worth getting into. But you can sort of like tell, oh, the whole rest of the world is absolutely not playing this game right now.
Yeah.
It's its own little niche thing, where this game, it's fantastic and huge and basically just what I would have wanted it to be, minus like 2% worth of quibbles. And then also everyone else seems to feel that way too. And that's wild. That does not feel like the DKVine I joined 10 years ago. That feels like a whole different thing.
First of all, Mitchell, I'm really salty with you. You spoiled that there are quibbles in the game. I didn't even know. I don't even know what those are yet. They sound like enticing at the very. I can't wait to meet the quibbles. But
the quibbles are good.
I know. Like DKVine has been in the weeds of esoteric gaming for so long now. I mean, honestly, this far surpasses the impact something like Donkey Kong Country Returns had. This is going all the way back to 94, 95, that era. The era I got into all of this nonsense. This is what it feels like. And I never thought we would be back here again. I never thought Donkey Kong would have this cultural relevancy again. Of course, again, I hoped. And part of like the mission, the driving force of DKVine was just to keep the embers alive somewhere until Nintendo reignites it. And here we are. And I kind of feel like I don't know what to do with myself, honestly. It's all a bit too much. And I don't know if I'm built for this. So we'll see. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try to keep up. And thank you all for joining us as well. We are talking about Lagoon Layer, the first proper world of the game on this episode of the Kongversation. No spoilers beyond Lagoon Layer. But before we get into that, I have a couple quick things I would like to plug, little shout outs I have to do.
Couple quibbles.
Quibbles. Well, you might have some quibbles with it because you're like, oh, I hate this part of the show, Hyle. Why don't you do this at the end like professional podcasts? And to that, I say, everybody tunes that part out. Like, nobody listens to that part of the podcast. Oh, they're doing the due diligence. The podcast is over. Time to switch to a different thing. No. We put it right after the beginning. Anyway, the DKVine forum. It's there. What an exciting time to talk about Donkey Kong on the internet. What can I tell you? The DKVine forum, the original incarnation, launched in 2000. It was after our website launched, and everyone was like, you should have a forum. And we were like, oh, that could go bad. That could be a poor decision. But we've had a forum, and, it was there for the build-up to Banjo-Tooie. And, forums have fallen out of fashion. They've fallen into the realm of discarded internet ideas because primarily social media. But, if we could bring Donkey Kong back and put Donkey Kong back in the zeitgeist, I'm saying, why can't we do the same for internet forums?
I'm always saying this. I'm always saying, if Donkey Kong can punch through a wall, why can't we do internet forums?
I've known Mitchell for a decade now, and Mitchell always says this. And I was like, Mitchell, what are you talking about?
It comes out at inopportune times. I've said it at church,
It's like back in 2016, I was like, when does Donkey Kong punch through walls? It never happens. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just something I say. Another one I throw out there is, if Looney Tunes can play basketball, why can't Donkey Kong punch through walls? And it kind of has a chain connection that way.
Yeah. I have to say, the Donkey Kong resurgence, it's a far better revival of the mid-1990s than Space Jam's sequel.
Yeah. Oh, by a lot.
Yeah. So, DKVine forum, dkvine.com/forum. I think that's the right one. I think that's the one that doesn't take you to the infected toe and peroxide video. But, join the DKVine forum, talk about, it's a very exciting time for Donkey Kong. We got a movie potentially in the works. Who knows what's coming next for Donkey Kong? And, of course, you can discuss Bananza and the rest of the wider DKU. Maybe you'll play this Ukulele and Impossible Layer game Mitchell just plugged. It's pretty good.
It is really good. I want to make a joke about that, but I feel like Impossible Layer needs every drop of my sincerity
it
that I can
does.
muster.
And it deserves
I just want you to know it's good for real.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Be sure to follow DKVine on Blue Sky. It is where I post most of my social media postings these days. And you can follow us. There's no algorithm. You can cultivate your feed to see exactly what you want. So, DKVine is on Blue Sky. And of course, we are on Patreon. It's how DKVine operates. It's how a damn Donkey Kong website. And not another damn Donkey Kong website. There's 3 Donkey Kong websites. But it's how we have survived in the long 11 years of no new standalone Donkey Kong games, our patrons. And I want to give a shout out because we do live stream these episodes to our $5 and up patrons. We got Freezer, who has joined us, Wrong Layer, Just Andre, Me Muppet. We have S Monaco 14, and Just a Banana in My Pocket. Oh wow, what a bunch of bananas in all of our pockets. Our lovely patrons joining us in our live stream. We'll be checking in as we go. Mitchell, how's life? What do you got going on right now?
It's mostly been Donkey Kong related.
Same.
The last week and a half or so, and really the months preceding it as well. I have been unemployed during this period, which is a great way to say I took some time off of work for Donkey Kong. Boy, the timing couldn't have been better. Dream game is and has been the return to Banjo-Kazooie 3D platformer, and it's not like this is that, but it is so close in so many really cool ways and exceeds that idea in so many others that to see it come out of not just a Nintendo series, but Nintendo themselves did it is really crazy, really cool, and I haven't really gotten to the point yet where it's just sunk in and become regular. I have 100%ed this game already, though, is what I'll say. Yeah. We're keeping the episode spoiler free, obviously, but yeah, I couldn't put it down the last full week plus. Yeah. It's been the kind of game that you kind of get that Tetris effect like closed eyelids still playing it effect. And yeah, it's awesome. It's just an awesome thing to have happened. And I actually asked you, Hyle. Well, I didn't ask you outright, but we were talking about this the podcast strategy of doing one per layer.
Yeah.
And I threw out, I'd love to talk about Lagoon Layer, and I'm glad it worked out because this level is very, very, very good.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. It does so many things at once. It's very very tightly and immaculately, but with a lot of generosity designed to be a good first level of a video game. And yeah, I'm ready to get into it.
It's one of those things, and I know you are all about game design theory. I mean, you are a game designer. You are in the industry. I am just this cheap clown on the sidelines honking my nose. But it's one of those things where this actually fascinates me, seeing and thinking about how the team built this game, built these worlds, because it doesn't really sink in, or it didn't sink in for me until you get past, the Ingot Isle cave-in, Sublayer 10, and you get to Lagoon Layer, Sublayer 100, 100 through 102. There's 3 levels, 3 tiers to this world. And, it's a water level that's not a water level, because that's not the kind of game Bananza is. It doesn't really facilitate that kind of 3D platforming, but it is still basically, your kind of water-land hybrid level. It's the world that is closest to the surface, and therefore I think it's partially designed to feel a little less surreal, and just a few degrees removed from what you might see in another Donkey Kong game, like somewhere in the DK Isles. It's not really like too far down where it starts becoming removed from what we are accustomed to. It's populated by the descendants of Kongs, who initially made the journey into the underground world and set up their little civilization there. So it's a nice way to kind of ease the gamer from Ingot Isle, Baboom Town, that whole scene, into the more unfamiliar aspects of this adventure. It's kind of baby steps, but it also does that by walking you through and training your brain on how to play this game, because this game plays differently than any other game I've ever played. And it is an achievement unto itself, this world.
It's really good. Something that I've noticed about this game is just how closely in structure it mirrors Super Mario Odyssey, which is
true.
That's obviously not a hot take, right? It's coming from the same team. It's another 3D platformer it's certainly in a style of Super Mario Odyssey, if not like in the overall style of Super Mario Odyssey. And Mario Odyssey had, similar to Ingot Isle in this game, which you've already talked about, it had the Cap Kingdom, which was a very small, more tutorial and exposition focused of like, let's get Cappy in Mario's hat. Let's teach the player they can do a capture by like getting one frog, right? And then you move on to the Cascade Kingdom, which is like, okay, real Mario level, actual, let's go. It's the first one. And Cascade Kingdom, I think, is just fantastic in the way that it trains the player to get what they want to get out of Mario Odyssey. Now, in the same exact structure here, we've got Ingot Isle, which was a really cool look into like what this game might look like, what it's going to feel like. Of course, the core controls of punch forward, punch up, punch down, jump, and roll and sonar. We're going to learn those then. And then we're going to introduce you to Voidco. And then we're going to introduce you to Odd Rock. And then we're going to introduce you to the idea of like jumping down from one layer to the next after fighting a boss, which gives you a key, which opens the purple metal stuff. And then that's like, by the time you're through Ingot Isle, you should have a pretty solid foundational idea of what we're going to expect from the game. But I wouldn't say that you've really been playing it in terms of what it has to offer in full yet.
Right.
So Lagoon Layer comes in, and like Cascade Kingdom in Mario Odyssey, it's presenting this idea of like, okay, you know how to play the game. You are in now. You might not know all the advanced controls. There's some stuff the game hasn't taught you yet, namely, you haven't started throwing stuff. You haven't started turf surfing. You haven't started doing a lot of things that you can do as early as you know how to do it, but like the game hasn't told you how yet. And this level really is about three things in the way the story, like the way that the level designers would probably have sat down and said like, okay, what's the story of this level? The story of this level mechanically is three things. It is throwing, it is hanging, and it is Bananza. And the way that it gets through those things while still acclimating the player to like, just what is this kind of game? What should I be looking for in terms of story, in terms of characters, in terms of art, in terms of like little references here and there, in terms of what I can do with this 3D platform character who, for a lot of players, Mario might be the only reference because, like, let's face it, Donkey Kong games have been considerably smaller than Mario games, at least since the like the end of the Nintendo 64 era.
Right.
Or really since the GameCube era. Donkey Kong 64 is a larger game than Mario, but so many more people played Mario 64 than Donkey Kong 64, and then it only got further than that once Rare left. So this is a game that a lot of people who like Donkey Kong already are going to go play. That might not be the biggest audience in the world already. But then a lot of people who liked Mario Odyssey specifically, which is a pretty solid, large current audience, are going to be told, it's its own game. It's its own series. Donkey Kong is not Mario. But it is Odyssey 2 if you want it to be. So you're going to go in through here. Lagoon Layer carries the weight for that entire demographic to feel like they're having a good time, to feel like they're having a different time and a rich time that's both dense and navigable in easy enough ways that just let you feel like you're having fun all the time. Whether you want to be the kind of player that just punches through everything all the time, or if you're looking around corners for collectibles, it's really walking this tightrope balance of being 1,000 different kinds of players, like onboarding level.
Yeah.
All these different ways. And it does it so well. It does it incredibly well.
It does it in a way, and again, I said, your brain doesn't notice that it's being taught, per se. It doesn't notice all these little decisions that it is laying out in front of you to guide you and make you know how to progress and start to use these moves and techniques with confidence. And it does it in such a natural way that it, like, I'm staggered, and it took me a while to really sit back and stare at the three tiers, the three sublayers of this world, and to see all the thought that went into every little decision. Every little nuance has a reason. And I was exhausted just thinking about what went into just this one world. Not even getting into the entire game. And that's really where the genius of this game solidified for me. Was this is juggling so much, and you it's giving the player certain amount of freedom to discover things and achieve certain things their own way, their own style of play. But then there are things that you're not supposed to do before you do XYZ, and it's got to keep you from reaching certain areas. And like, there has to be a structure to the game world independent of all the destructible terrain. And like, what does the terrain then add to it? And like, this game is working on so many, I mean, I was going to say levels, but this game is just, it's operating at such a wavelength that that's why I was excited you wanted to be on this episode, Mitchell, because I really wanted to hear your perspective as a game designer, as a developer, someone who could take stock of it. I'm just a slack-jawed yokel who's like, wow, golly gee, them folk at Nintendo sure do know how to make one of them video games.
That is how if someone asks me about like this podcast, that's how I explain you. But no, the level is just very solid at getting you to a point where you can appreciate each new thing that it has to offer. So like the moment you land in Ape Cape, the very starting section of Lagoon Layer 100, you are looking forward at a little hill you can climb, which is, you've climbed hills up before this point in the game. Not hard. But you have buzzoids, the first non-boss connotation, even though I say boss connotation because you had a crocoid in Ingot Isle, right? That's not a boss, but it was used as one. The buzzoids here.
You also had a couple random enemy encounters in Ingot Isle and in the tunnels. There were the were they the peekaboo boids or
they had the they did. You're right. There were some peekabooids. There was the discs that kind of come out of the ground. Mm-hmm. I would say the general danger of those is pretty low compared to that one crocoid who, if you didn't, the Molvaloids is what their name is. Thank you, Andre.
Molvaloids, okay.
The crocoid is much more dangerous, like if you're just sort of standing there, than any of those things. But these buzzoids, I would say, are each just as dangerous and right in front of you. And what they're doing right away is they're throwing balls at you. Yeah. As if to imply, you could do this too. It's the like immediate showing off of the new mechanic by having something that isn't you in the environment. Try it, and it tries to get your brain scratching in the way of like, well, this guy just threw a rock. I could probably throw a rock if I haven't thrown a rock at this point. And it introduces like the main geomechanical conceit of the level, which is boom rocks, which is a purple, sparky, explosive rock, versus concrete, which is a very hard material that you shouldn't really normally be able to break without help. Although there are ways to do it.
Yes.
But the boom rock versus the concrete is the story of this level. It happens right here at the beginning. They show some concrete, and they're like, well, don't worry about it too much yet, but you've collected gold. Here's a big piece of gold inside concrete. It's not breaking just from punching. I don't know. Maybe think about it. And then by the end of the level, you've got a boss who we can talk about more in detail later, but we've got a boss who can turn into concrete momentarily. And it's asking you, like the game is asking you, okay, here's a real test. Throw this boom rock at the concrete. It's not a hard test, but it is a test. You need to pass right now if we want to see you through to the rest of the game. And it's like that very, very classic Nintendo scaffolding of we're showing you boom rocks can be used against anything right now. Then we're showing you concrete and we're kind of expecting you to just walk around it. Now we're showing you boom rocks and concrete together in a way that we're very, very like obviously directing you through. Now we're showing you them in a way that is less obvious. And now we're showing you them in a way that, like, well, maybe the boom rock isn't right next to the concrete and you have to walk it over or find out how to bring it over. And it's just a very... This is what Mario tends to do very, very well. This is the Mario style of teaching level design. And it's not new to Donkey Kong as a series. It certainly exists in huge ways in at least the first two Donkey Kong countries. Donkey Kong Country 3 works a little bit differently and is less about scaffolding and is more about evolution of gimmicks in a slightly different way. Mm-hmm. And the retro games then totally do it. Like that is retro's bread and butter as well. But 64 kind of doesn't, because every skill that you learn in the game is mostly a lock and key scenario where the world is full of locks and you acquire keys one at a time. So you just like, well, now Tiny can get small. And I saw the Tiny get small signpost earlier in the level. I'll go back there with that. So you don't really get as much scaffolding in that same way. And in an open-ended game like Donkey Kong 64 or specifically Mario Sunshine 64 or Odyssey, but not the other Marios, like with these open worlds, it's incredibly hard to do. This is something that on games I've worked on, this is something I've ran into where the parts of the games that I've worked on are very linear, and whenever they are, it's easy to understand where the player's been right before they encounter the thing that you are working on. But if the area you're in is more open, and so much of the area is always open in a game where you can punch through every wall, like this game, you have no idea what the player has just done. You really can't guarantee, like, okay, are you coming from the path that we've like paved and made look like a path and hope you're coming from? Or did you climb up the side just because you can? Or did you punch through a wall from behind? Again, just because you can. And it seems like, of course you can break the kind of teaching moments that they set up for you. And in my experience of playing through the whole game, I, of course, yes, a couple times got in front of what the game was planning for me. More than a couple times, honestly. But it's done in such a way that, like, if you climbed up the side or from the back, you either really didn't want to do that thing that was, like, signposting you toward the objective, or you are so skilled that it's not important to teach you right now, and you just did a really hard thing in an alternative pathway to get where you wanted to go. So it's fine. And it doesn't seem like a game where you can take Nintendo's precious level design and just explode it and sift it through a strainer and make sure it doesn't look anything like it looked when you got there. It doesn't seem like that kind of game should have as thoughtful design execution as something more straightforward like a Mario game. But it does. And it does that while keeping a close eye on making sure the world of this place is still interesting and fun in terms of thinking about like characters and settings. It does it while keeping a close eye on difficulty, and it does it while keeping a close eye on just if they delete everything, is it still fun to play? Or if they don't delete anything, is it still fun to play? And like it just is. It just still is fun the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is, I think, the best level in the game at that until probably at least the halfway point. It's a very, very strong intro to what this game can do.
Yeah, and, as somebody who generally doesn't think in terms of game design, I don't like to see the seams. I don't like to think in terms that break my immersion and really allow me to buy into the story and the character placement that the team is laying out for me. Like, it wasn't until after I was done, really, that I was able to take a step back and appreciate all of that, all of those little nuances, all of those decisions that went into making this world and really this game. But this world is just such a like deft illustration of what this game is all about, really. And like working on those multiple tiers and like level design on top of level design, really. It's incredible. But this is also a Donkey Kong game, and it cracks me up. All that discussion and debate about lore in the weeks preceding Bananza's release, and like, this game is not gonna have any of that. Shut up! It's just gonna be punching rocks, and the amount of world building and attention to detail in each layer. It's the most astounding in any Donkey Kong game. Like, I know it's been a long time since we've had a Donkey Kong game this size, this amount of heft behind it. I mean, I love the retro games, but they were 2D platformers and didn't even have a lot of NPC dialogue at that. So there was only so much they could do in the way of just actual verbal storytelling. And the thing that really, I mean, I saw it in Ingot Isle, I saw it in Sublayer 10, but getting into the world itself and seeing how each world was just its own environment with tons of history, both implied and outright stated. I mean, yes, Odyssey did this as well. And Odyssey had the benefit of having your little tour guide books, right? Like, here's the 2-page spread on this kingdom, and here's all these little historical points, and we're gonna give a little bit of a shine to this area and plant some ideas in the player's head about what they need to check out and experiment with. But Bananza doesn't have that, and so Bananza really just drops Donkey Kong, and at this point in the story, Odd Rock, as we know it, into this unfamiliar, strange setting. And you've got to just figure it out. And of course, you look around and you look up, and we knew this thanks to the Nintendo Treehouse session the day after Bananza was revealed. But the ocean itself is pulling down from the surface into Lagoon Layer, and you can look up and you can see the ocean kind of spiraling down into the layer itself, which is just such a great little detail. But this is a civilization of salvagers. They are monkeys, Kongs, but they are this quasi-aquatic society of fishermen, effectively. But they fish for the junk that has come from the surface. So like anything from shipwrecks or the ocean, they fish it up and then they use it and incorporate it into their civilization. And this is all laid out in the little lore stones that you could find throughout the game in the banana glyph language. I think the lore stones all say the same thing in the banana glyphs, like as far as visually. Yeah. But you cracked most of this before the game even came out.
Well, yeah. So these banana glyphs, they all say "message, thank you for reading someone," which is it is technically what it says, if not word for word.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I did want to talk, Hyle, about the question or raise the question. You might have had your mind made up about this, but I do think it's an interesting thing. I want to raise the question of whether or not these monkeys are Kongs. Because I would think so. But there's an interesting one of those banana glyphs in this level that kind of made me re-examine that thought. And it was the one that describes the large ancient vinyl record, right?
Yeah.
And it says, don't fuck with it. It doesn't say that, but it's getting at the idea of like, come on, man, be cool with it. And if you're carrying it, it needs to be 2 monkeys at least, because it is quite heavy, and don't mess up. And then like the third thing is like, okay, and other rule is if you're a Kong, well then sure, you can carry it by yourself because you're very, very strong. That implies that there's monkeys, and of them, there are Kongs, but there are many monkeys that aren't. At least that seems to be the idea that it's presenting outwardly. And none of the prospector monkeys in Ingot Isle or salvager monkeys in Lagoon Layer are referred to as Kongs ever, although these Lagoon Layer ones are clearly like modeled after the prospector ones, and the prospector ones are clearly modeled after specifically Diddy Kong, who is a Kong. So there's just a lot of ideas there. What should I be thinking about what a Kong is among primates who maybe aren't Kongs?
Well, here's the thing, Mitchell. This is going to be something that we are going to be debating for the rest of our lives, and that's the great thing about having a new Donkey Kong game is we get little nuggets of talking points we didn't have before, and we can spin this off into wild tangents into the future. But my reading of this is that the civilization, they probably were Kongs, or considered Kongs at one point. They probably were monkeys from DK Island or thereabouts, somewhere in the archipelago, who journeyed to the underground world, founded this civilization, and just drifted over time and kind of lost their connections back to the surface. And these monkeys might not consider themselves Kongs anymore, these descendants of the descendants of the descendants. I would say, just from a purely anthropological viewpoint, they are Kong descendants. And I only say that because of the Bananza. The Bananza you achieve or learn in this layer. And for those who aren't keeping up, this is all talked about pre-release. Bananzas are kind of the like Avatar state, Super Saiyan mega like form Donkey Kong can take when Pauline learns the proper song to utilize the Bananergy from the Banandium. And you know, there are future layers that correspond with the animal civilization that lives there. And of course there is the Kong Elder here. We'll talk about that guy in a little bit, but I would say, like, going back, these would be Kongs. They might not consider themselves Kongs anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so the Kong Elder is very clearly a Kong. He's the one member of this society that we see within the limited scope of... Lagoon Layer is probably much larger than what we see in the game. There's probably other islands with other monkeys and Kongs. But within the area we see, the Kong Elder is the only one who is called a Kong. And I think in this particular instance, without having seen any other Donkey Kong games, you might draw the conclusion that monkeys are monkeys, but apes are Kongs, which seems to be kind of how they're talking about it in this layer among this salvager monkeys. But I think there's another moment where the Kong elder is talking to you and says that you remind him of himself in his primate prime. And there's something that needs to be squared away as well with what a Bananza is. Because if you're just turning into a Kong using the Bananza, you already are one. So that wouldn't have that effect. But the thing that you turn into is a black-furred, dark-skinned, banana-haired gorilla that doesn't look particularly like Donkey Kong. Like, Donkey Kong's vibe is the starting point of it, but it looks exactly like a smaller version of the Kong Elder, right?
Yeah.
So there's a question of whether or not, are you just turning into a bigger version of whatever animal you're choosing, or are you specifically embodying a younger version of this Kong Elder?
Then again, how did the Kong Elder get to the size of a King Kong like being? It's probably tapping into the Bananarchy. And so does could the Kong Elder look more like Donkey Kong or Funky Kong, before he found a way to perpetually augment and achieve that eternal state that he's in? So many questions. That's why I love this game, because it goes there about 60% of the way, and then it just takes a step back, and it's like, all right, you're gonna have to figure out the rest. We're just giving you glimpses of what's going on here, and it's tantalizing, and I love it. That's what Rare did back in the day, but Rare never was able to get as in depth as EPD is doing here. And
yeah, well, the last time any Nintendo platformer, without going as far as becoming an RPG or action adventure like a Zelda or whatever, has gotten into this much character, is probably like Banjo-Tooie, when that was still a Nintendo property.
Right.
And Banjo-Tooie was like on the way, I feel, to something that looked more like both this and Mario Odyssey. Like just getting to a point where you're having so much dialogue and conversation with other characters in the game. It is just nice to see that continue after it's been dormant for so long.
Andre in the chat brings up a good point. We know that monkeys do not equal Kongs isn't how the game is thinking of it, because not only Diddy and Dixie, but also Void Kong all exist. So it is, but again, that's why I love that we can have these fresh new debates. They're not the same old tired debates that we've been having for 25 years now. It's fresh, it's exciting, it's new. I'm not tired of this argument yet. I'm not rolling my eyes.
Yeah, it's a new one. It's yeah. So Andre brings up Diddy and Dixie and also Void Kong. I would wonder if there were a bunch of salvager monkeys looking at Diddy and Dixie trying to single-handedly lift that record, would they think, like, I don't know if he's supposed to do that? Yeah. Or would they think, well, he's technically a Kong, even though we're the same build, so he should be able to do this?
But again, like, I feel like Kong isn't necessarily like this, a species or bloodline so much as it is just a designation. And like any of these monkeys could be a Kong if they claimed it.
If they worked harder.
Yeah, you just gotta want it. Rise and grind.
Yeah, these are like Kong dropouts. Maybe they could have been, but yeah.
they've just forgotten. They've forgot, like their society has evolved just into this tangent. And again, it's familiar, but slightly different. And that's what the underground world really allows this team to do, is they get to play with what they want, but they also get to go into new directions without it feeling like they are overriding anything or they're being sacrilegious to what has come before. It's just...
Well, we had this conversation as well with Baboom 11 years ago, and I listened to your episode with Dustin, and I know you touched on Baboom from Tropical Freeze. This might lend a little bit more credence to like, well, could it be possible he isn't a Kong, or would he have to be a Kong? It seems like, well, now we know there's many more primates that don't consider themselves Kongs and wouldn't be close to it, although still could go either way. I don't know how I land on it yet.
Yeah. We also have to consider, there's Mankey Kongs, Void Kong, Grumpy
and that
Kong,
is a Kong.
Poppy Kong. It really is like, do you want to be a Kong? Okay, you're a Kong. Like, so long as you are of vaguely simian proportions, you're in. But we got really hung up on this, Mitchell.
This is the place to do it. No one else is talking about, everyone's saying, oh, the punch is so fun, and like, Nintendo did it again. Like, yeah, okay, but what's a Kong? What is a Kong?
I suppose you're right.
There's a question now.
I suppose
There's a question.
This is why DKVine still has relevancy, even though Donkey Kong is hot shit again. We're asking the questions everyone else isn't thinking to ask because they don't have the historical context for it.
Yeah, they used the word Kong in 1981, and it's taken until 2025 for the real folks to be like, okay, but what's that though? What is that?
I mean,
so now it matters.
I was having these full-throated debates in 1998 if Konga and Chimpy and Banjo-Kazooie were Kong. So, it comes up every so often. Every few years, it's a fresh, hot debate to have. But let's talk a little bit more about Lagoon Layer as a whole, because this is something I wanted to bring up. I was actually going to bring it up in this episode, and I forgot to put it in my show notes. And then in our chat, just before we started the episode, SMonaco14 brought up the music. And I was like, oh my god, the music! I forgot to put anything in the show notes about the music. Because the music of Lagoon Layer... I love the music in this game. I think the music in this game as a whole, so far, from what I've heard, it strikes the right balance of feeling quintessentially Donkey Kong-y, in the context that we understand that, while not feeling like a retread, while not feeling like it's just basically going through these permutations of David Wise and Evelyn Novakovic and Grant Kirkhope's greatest hits. And they do find appropriate times to do the callbacks, to kind of tap into the past a little bit and make you feel things. And we talked a little bit about it on the last episode with Dustin, at times in the initial area where you hear that, you hear those little notes of the past. Here, you've got just a whiff, just a faint aroma, but for the ears, of DK Island Swing. It's just a couple of bars, but it's there. It's just how did you put it, Mitchell? You put it so eloquently before we started.
Oh, it's just it's the motif of dumpa 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 dumpa, but it's in a major key instead of a minor key, and it's not the main melody. It's just this backing voice.
Yes.
Between the main melody's bars. It just comes in. I'm not going to sing the whole thing, but it's there enough that it's very much a new song. It's a new song in the way that, like, if you took the aesthetics of this level and you took screenshots of them and you ACM'd graphics them into a Super Nintendo game and you made that Donkey Kong Country 4 for the Super Nintendo, it's a new song, but it clearly evokes where this franchise has gone, what this level is as compared to Jungle Hijinks and DKC 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, we've talked about how through Jungle Beat and Donkey Kong Country Returns, and even still with Rare, Donkey Kong 64, it sometimes feels like the only things they're allowed to reference out of the initial trilogy are DKC 1 stuff. And it's been like a point of contention within our community of, that's not even the best one, maybe. Maybe 2's better, maybe 3's better, maybe we just want to see more of the world that had been explored already. We don't want to have to start from ground one or square one every single time. And in this game, it goes for DKC 1 vibes again in many ways, but like that music motif is one in particular that is really noticeable. It goes for like mirrors and echoes of DKC 1 again, but it's doing it in a way that is so much more transformative than anything else that came before in that lineage, and it's doing it in a way that sort of it goes into demonstrating that it understands what DKC 1 was doing rather than just taking the stuff out of DKC 1.
Yeah.
There's so many things about the level design that feel like a DKC 1 translation into 3D in a way that Donkey Kong 64 was not a translation of DKC 1 into 3D so much as it was a translation of Banjo-Kazooie into DKC 1.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah. It really is noticeable. And that's what really, I mean, it's why I got emotional probably 90 seconds into the game, Mitchell, is I recognized what they were doing. And I was feeling the feelings I expected to feel playing Donkey Kong 64 back in 1999 that I never really got to. I never really got to that point playing DK64 because it really was just, what if we do Banjo-Kazooie but it stars Donkey Kong characters, and what if we don't do it as well? And
yeah, and also like, what if we retread? So like, you've seen a DKC jungle, we're still going to start with that. You've seen a DKC, I guess you hadn't seen a DKC desert, but you could pretty well imagine what it would have been. And Angry Aztec feels, yeah, that's what it would have been. And this game's like, immediately, what if there were monkeys under the ocean that fished for forks? I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I haven't seen that. That's new.
Yeah, it's new. It's fresh. And not fresh like the banana, although the bananas in this game are also fresh. They found a new way to do bananas that feels unique. Golden bananas at that. It's the Banandium conceit is so brilliant. Every little decision in this game so far, because again, I'm only at Sublayer 400, but so far, I would say every little decision is the correct one. So
that's such an interesting way to review a video game. 94% of decisions were correct, so it's a 94%.
Just speaking from purely Donkey Kongological stance, Mitchell, every little decision they're making is correct, because it is like Donkey Kong 64 had the problem of feeling a little bit too cartoony, a little bit too slapsticky. And like, you need a little bit of that, but there's a tone, there's a tenor to Donkey Kong that's different from Banjo-Kazooie or Conker or Mario in this case. One of the big things about this game that I was worried about, especially when I really played Odyssey for the first time in the 2 weeks prior to Bananza's release, was, is it just going to feel like Mario but with Donkey Kong? Is it going to be like Donkey Kong 64 felt in regards to Banjo-Kazooie, but is this just going to feel like Super Mario Odyssey starring Donkey Kong? It doesn't. I mean, the structure is there in the same way that, say, the structure of Super Mario World was there for Donkey Kong Country, or Super Mario 64 was there for Banjo-Kazooie. But even though this shares a lot of the same team members, this does not feel like a Mario game.
Yeah, I don't know, it feels a little like a Mario game, but it's fine. But in the way that it feels like a Mario game, are very, very helpful. It's taken maybe 60% of the identity of Mario Odyssey, and the 60% it chose to take were the correct percents.
Okay,
yeah,
but you have to also keep in mind, Super Mario Odyssey also felt a lot like rare influence being injected into Mario's veins. And I was playing Odyssey before Bananza, and I just kept getting irritated because I was like, oh man, this would have been a great Donkey Kong game. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm getting a Donkey Kong game effectively by this team in a matter of days. Why am I getting salty?
Yeah, totally. Isn't it interesting that in order to get like a less slapsticky DK64, it needed to become Mario first and then back into Donkey Kong? It was like laundered. It was laundered through Mario.
First Mario had to become Banjo-Kazooie to get Donkey Kong away from Banjo-Kazooie. I can't make sense of it.
It's, they're friends, Mario and Donkey Kong. It happens. Mario Odyssey is a very, very good game. To return back to the conversation just about Lagoon Layer in particular, having now finished both games, no spoilers or specifics about future layers, but I would say that something that divides the games, something that is different between them, is that Odyssey levels, I would say on the whole, are a little bit more individual and unique among platforming levels, to the point where, and you've seen this if you've gotten to, I think you said you got to the Metro Kingdom in Odyssey, right?
Yes.
I'm sure you've already seen this enough to understand this point. Like, those levels are all really different from each other, both in art style, which is like the point of what they're going for, but also just in, oh, this is a really small level. Oh, this is an enormous level. The Sand Kingdom is huge. And then immediately like, oh, here's the Lost Kingdom. It's a really tiny island. And in that way, like, I think I'll probably remember each individual level of Odyssey longer than maybe individual levels of Bonanza, but it's a trade-off, because with Bonanza and Lagoon Layers, the first time that we see it, it's building to a whole more than Odyssey levels are. They are, I would say, probably more similar to each other in design, like design goals, characterizing design goals, than Mario Odyssey levels. You do a lot of the same stuff in different settings, and it's transformative in terms of how you do those things for every level in Bonanza, where in Odyssey you were doing very, very different stuff every time, to the point where that was a complaint, that if people weren't phrasing it exactly like that, I still did recognize that happening, where with Odyssey, people didn't like that they were just starting over every time they got to a new level, and it was such a different idea. And Lagoon Layer, in contrast to that, is the first building block of what makes Bonanza's tone interesting and great. Both as in terms of literal like storytelling tone, but also mechanically, also musically, also narratively. Just the kinds of characters and things you find. It's building toward a bigger idea more than it is a portfolio of different levels, which are in Odyssey. I still think like some of the best 3D platforming levels of all time, but different levels, different games, ideas in there. Yeah. Bonanza is completely much more unified in this way.
Yeah. So Lagoon Layer, and as I said, like Lagoon Layer, it's three tiers, and you've got Sublayer 100, the top side, which features the area of Ape Cape, and also Reservoir Bank and Reservoir Hills. And there's a lot of like romping around and really getting comfortable with the gameplay, like just the basic fundamentals, throwing, as you said, but also just digging, punching through walls, learning the difference between the like rocks and minerals and terrain. That's one aspect of this game. When they were talking about it during the Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct, where I was just thinking, that sounds like homework to me. Like, I don't know how interesting I'm gonna find the like stability of terrain. Like, oh, this is the difference between dirt and stone and concrete, and like, I don't know. And it's so much fun. It's so much fun. For one thing, can I just say how visually resplendent it is punching through anything in this game and just seeing the texture, seeing the way it might glisten or crumble, or I mean, the amount of work they're able to get out of these voxels is it's one of the most visually appealing Donkey Kong games. I mean, maybe since the original Super Nintendo trilogy, just as far as like it feels like a leap forward in that regard. And I'm sure, like, given how sheltered I am in my video game consumption, other games do this better. But like, this is something that makes me go, wow, that's impressive. Like, just look at the way that stone looks after Donkey Kong tears through it with another piece of stone.
Well, honestly, no, I don't necessarily think that this is done that much better or even at all too often. This, like, there is a technology out there that will take a collection of voxels, which in their truth are cubes.
Yeah.
But in rendering and lighting tricks and shaders and all that stuff, we can make look really like anything that mostly resembles the shape of the collection of those cubes. And that is magic tricks to me. I don't really quite understand how that works.
Yeah.
But it is something that happens. What I really haven't seen it pulled off nearly, like, even close to as good as the way that Donkey Kong Bonanza works, or as the way that it looks. It's running at full, 1080p, mostly hitting 60 frames per second, and yet the entire wall of stone in front of you is made out of thousands and thousands of little cubes. I don't get that. That seems impossible to me in terms of what I've tried to put on the screen in a video game, and had an engineer tell me that's too many things on the screen. And I said, okay, I'm sorry. And I had to take some out. The way that this works is mind-boggling.
It's like you work for a 3-star restaurant or whatever, and you're like, there's too many components in this meal. You've got to scale it back to 3 components. It's just like that kind of... But no, they do it here. They fill it with, I mean, God, I can't even, the mind boggles at what they're able to do. And again, that's why I'm kind of glad that we had the wait for the Switch 2 for this game, that they did decide to push it to the Switch 2, because it does really help sell, like, the whole conceit of this game, punching and digging. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's more to this game than that. There is a little bit of traditional platforming, and even there, you incorporate the terrain, chunk jumping. Oh my God, chunk jumping, Mitchell! I love chunk jumping. Barely comes up in this world.
Chunk jumping is so fun.
It's a great idea, but it really doesn't come into play yet. But chunk jumping, once you get the hang of chunk jumping, I can't go back. I can't even jump in real life now without having a stone underneath me.
I need to be holding something in order to jump as well in real life. Yeah.
It's a game changer, it's a life changer. But The whole like topside area, and it really gets you also acquainted with all the stuff. I mean, yes, the training area did that as well, but there it was mostly just gold and banana chips, or banandium chips, excuse me. There is a difference. I'm not going to be like all these people just calling these bananas. It's banandium. It matters. Maybe not in the context of this game, but in the grander scheme. Anyway, but here you are introduced to fossils, which we'll get into in a little bit. Treasure chest, which of course house maps to specific fossils, or even if you're lucky, you can pull banandium gem maps out of the ground. Sometimes treasure chests will just have gold in them. Sometimes they'll have balloons, and balloons in this game, they basically just save you from falling off the edge. They're kind of effectively like what lives are technically doing in the Donkey Kong Country games, but it wasn't until Retro came along that they really illustrated that. And kind of like what the green balloons do in Tropical Freeze and Returns 3D and HD. They pull you up, and they're slightly different in this game. They have the banana patterns on them, just because these are underground world balloons. They're a little bit different from the DK Island archipelago balloons. But anyway, balloons. You got apples.
Balloons.
Apples, which serve as the health in this game. And other sundries that don't come into play yet, like the melon juice. But
yeah, there's such an interesting thing with the apple juice for for health, because if someone in a complete ignorance of what Bananza is all about said, like, hey man, what do you think Donkey Kong should eat to recover health? They'd say, bananas. Why would you think it's anything else? But there's so, like, 7 other things are already bananas, so they just have to be like, yeah, it's probably apples. I don't know.
Well,
apples is pretty good.
Of course, Donkey Kong 64 had watermelon, and yeah. I think there's probably good reasons they got away from that in this game. They still incorporate. Yeah, for those who don't know, there are ugly connotations with watermelon in the Americas, specifically the United States. It's a sordid history, and so it was well intentioned. In DK64, there was nothing like implied there, but I think with the benefit of being more socially conscious, like maybe have apples instead. Apples a day, keep the doctor away. Sure, whatever. The Kongs love all fruit, so it's a wise little sleight of hand there. I'm okay with that change, but yeah, like it is. Like, the whole health system in this game, and we're not going to get into all aspects of it in this layer, but I really like how they do it, because, of course, you can increase the amount of hearts Donkey Kong has by, if you choose to advance those stats when you get 5 Banandium gems, you can do that, and you can, just max out your hearts if you want. But this game is very generous in everything, really. If you're ever running low on anything, all you've got to do is start punching and digging, and you will replenish your coffers in no time.
Yeah, it's a thing with Odyssey, with 3D platformers in general. You just don't want to die in one hit. It doesn't make sense anymore to die in one hit if you can maneuver around in 3D space, which means enemies can too, which means there should be a lot more enemies than normal. It feels good, and I think expanding your health with the skill tree is an interesting choice that you can make. I would always I would prefer the skills that are more this lets you punch rocks harder to get through rocks faster, or this is like a whole new ability that you didn't have before. Mm-hmm. I was very late to upgrading my health in my playthrough.
I am a coward, and so it was the very first thing I upgraded. But, it's not something I focused on. I really just started working on having Donkey Kong be well-rounded. And, it's not a problem, it's not something that comes up in this layer, so I won't get into it. But it is, the game affords you a lot of leeway with the seal tree. It's not something that is like of massive consequence and, I'm going to sit here and overthink this because I can't get this wrong. And there are also ways to just yoink it back as well if you decide, I shouldn't have done that.
One piece of advice maybe to listeners who have not finished the game is if you can hold off, I would strongly recommend not maxing out your sonar ability. Once I maxed out the sonar ability, I realized I probably shouldn't have done that because I was seeing halfway across levels and it was really deleting any kind of enjoyment that I would have gotten from solving, I guess this part of the wall is sort of hinting at there being a room on the other side. I was seeing a lot less of that stuff when I maxed out the sonar to the point where I actually reset it so I didn't have it maxed anymore.
Yeah. The sonar and the map, utilizing the map, which I didn't really get the hang of until I started digging up fossil maps and I started okay, where's that? And then it takes a while to get the hang of the 3D map. But it becomes invaluable once you do. And I think they found the right balance. It's not perfect, but the balance of the sonar, where you can maybe see something through the terrain once you do the hand slap, and then you can coordinate on your map, and then you've got the camera, when you're digging through tight spaces. I think they pull it off. I think it is as elegant as it could possibly be, given the juggling act involved. But I wasn't sure.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cause I was like, that's me. I'm the layperson.
It feels, the map can feel quite rough. And sometimes when you're digging underground, the camera can feel quite rough. And I've seen this question be raised of is this really the best they could have done for the map and the camera for this kind of game? And while, it is rough sometimes, I think the answer to that is yes. I don't really think that for what this game is trying to do with having a persistent level design, but then still letting you break all of it, that breakage needs to be represented on the map in a way that respects verticality. And for that, I think this is the only way to do it. I really can't think of... I can think of very, very small UI tweaks I might make to make it a little better looking, but the overall paradigm of how this map works, I think, is just kind of what you would have to do.
The only quibble I have about the maps are...
So you do know about them. Okay.
I wish when you were toggling between sublayers within a world, going from 101 to 102 to 103, I wish it would be a straight vertical path down. So if you're trying to see maybe how to get in the areas where you've got the mini sinkholes to drop down, I wish you could, it would actually take you directly underneath where it is if you are looking at, say, SL 101's map, and then you drop down to SL 102. I wish it would just take you down to the spot directly underneath. There seems to be this reset that happens when you do it, and then it's hard to find your bearings again.
I see what you mean. Yeah, okay. I don't think I've noticed that thing, but yeah, it's a new kind of experience. Having that kind of map, it is really nice. I'll say, in the situations where I want to just destroy one part of the level because I'm looking for something.
Yeah,
and that has happened a couple times. to see that, to pause it on the map screen and then to see, oh yeah, look what I did. It's gone. That's kind of fun. That's a fun little dopamine boost to have my destruction be validated by the map.
I have a lot of aggression in the year 2025, a lot of like impotent rage that I can't ordinarily express. And so it has been a bit cathartic when I'm winding down a session or whatever, and I'm just like, well, whatever. It's going to reset when I start the game back up. Smash, smash, smash. That was the biggest thing, really, for me. The biggest thing I had to adapt to was letting go and destroying things. Because I talked a little bit about this. I appeared on the Tokyo Game Life podcast on their most recent episode, and one of the things that came up, it was effectively spoiler free, but one of the things that came up was, you know, I'm a nature lover, Mitchell, and I love hiking and I love wilderness exploration and adventure. And one of the things that is just instilled in you is leave no trace. Like, don't have any impact on your surroundings. Basically be a ghost moving betwixt the trees, right? So for me, and so much of my love of nature is intertwined with my love of the DKU. They go hand in hand. One feeds into the other. And so here I am looking at these gorgeous terrains, and you want me to effectively strip mine this mountain. Oh God. And it took me a while, and especially the rationale and realization that someone is resetting this. Someone is coming along after Donkey Kong and putting things back. And so it's okay. And it's even okay in the context of the game itself. So
it's okay to do. Maybe Cranky's doing it, but
well, I've got theories, but I can't get into it on this episode.
Okay. That's cool. I think that's like the whole conceit of why we're underground, right? They saw Donkey Kong destroying the earth, and they thought, probably not a good look. Like, well, underground, it's fine. There's so much of earth. It's an infinite amount of earth compared to the surface. It's effectively endless. Like, okay, ship it. I think that's why. For me, nature's fine. Level design is sacrosanct. And destroying all that beautiful level design, that's I felt the same way about that. That was hard to get on board with. But by the end of getting through it, you start to love your little temper tantrum moments where you couldn't do something exactly in the like pre-designed way, and you're like, well, what if I level the earth? what if I level my surroundings entirely? And it's fun. It's just a fun, like, inherently good feeling. It's like Mario's jump. They really did it in that kind of way, like Link's sword, Mario's jump, and now Donkey Kong, who's really been borrowing the Mario toolkit in that regard, now has a terrain destroying punch, which feels just quite as good as those things. Just very, very good.
Who's the real wrecking crew now, Mario?
Yeah, definitely not Foreman Spike.
Nope. Anyway, Sublayer, that's Sublayer 100, basically. It's Sublayer 100 is ironically Bananza 101. But Sublayer 101, this is
Bananza 102.
Yeah, this is the middle area that primarily consists of the Salvagers Landing area, which is actually the beating heart of the entire layer. This is really where the civilization is. This is the central hub of activity and commerce and spirituality. And this is really where you start to get a sense of how robust the underground world is going to be. It's not just going to be these disparate NPCs saying, I have a problem. Can you scratch my back? And you scratch your back and thank you. Here, I found this. I don't need it. It's junk. And it's a Banandium gem, it's a little bit more involved than that. And the big problem in Sublayer 101 is that it's dried up. And these are a fishing folk. These monkeys, who might be Kongs or Kong descendants, they are, I think they're modeled after like rural East Asian, Southeast Asian, like fishing villages and communities. But they,
I can see that.
Yeah, they can't really fish because Voidco has dammed the reservoir, and you need to basically let the water flow. And this creates multiple tiers then of water raising. And then Donkey Kong has to is then swimming across this surface where he was previously just scampering about. And like there's certain things and certain parts of the world that you can't get to until you raise it at a certain height. And yeah, I was just really impressed with this because, and it's not like they're starving. It's not like these salvager monkeys are like, oh, we can't fish for our fish. All the fish are in risk of dying and then we're going to die. It's, we can't fish up our forks and spoons.
And they specifically note that they could go pick them up with their hands, but there's no sport in that.
There's no
so really
sport
what we're saving the day for is like their pastime.
Yeah,
not their livelihoods.
It's basically like me. I could just play Bananza like a normal person, and I could be done with the game by now. But there's no sport in that for me. I've got to spend 15 hours on each layer and frustrate my audience. So, yeah, I have my fishing line with a big magnet on it, and just great details and just the right touch of absurdity. Like there's that, and that's always been the Donkey Kong, DKU, and Rare model is, and Platonic, as an extension of that, where they really just take a slice of human existence and they just make it slightly askew, slightly weird, and like abnormal in a way that some players might not even notice and realize why it's so humorously dumb. But I really appreciate it. It's just like that, just bizarre flourish of like, wait, I'm not really helping you that much. You're fine. Like, this is kind of dumb, but it feels like there are grave consequences to your plight of not getting to fish up forks with your magnet rods.
Yeah, we can't decide for them how important things are to each other.
No, because Donkey Kong isn't a colonizer. He's coming in to help them. He's not coming in to force his way of life on them.
He will destroy the entire town, though, and it needs to be okay.
It's fine because somebody or something or some entity is coming along after it and just fixing it, and it's fine. It's fine. And you know what? Like, that's the great thing about the Salvager monkeys, too, is they are actually a bit xenophobic, and they are, like, extremely wary of outsiders, which feels fresh for a Donkey Kong game, because usually Donkey Kong comes in when he's, like, visiting a new island or whatever, and there's a celebration. It's like, oh, thank God the Kongs are here to set this right. I mean, the only time you didn't get that was Crocodile Isle, which was just, like, the Kremlin's home turf, and so like it was completely hostile. But here they're very distrusting, and it's interesting too that you get that in the like highest realm of the underground world is they are the most standoffish, and eventually you're helping them out enough that they lower their guard and they're okay with you. But I found that just an interesting choice, that the very first world is full of people who don't really want you there.
Hyle, can I talk about colors?
You know what? I can see them.
How well?
I'm not colorblind. I did realize the other day that I have trouble distinguishing really light red hair from brown hair.
Oh, like if you think you have one red hair in your beard and then you proudly show your girlfriend and then she goes, Mitchell, that's okay, yeah, sure. And then you realize, okay, maybe I didn't have anything. And then, well, that might have been just my...
I was going to say, that sounds like
That might
a you
have been
problem. I was just saying, like, on TV, when somebody's referred to as having red hair, and I'm like, what do you... That's brown hair. Or somebody's referred to as having blonde hair, and I'm like, I thought you had black hair. What? So I think I have hair color
that should be more obvious, but...
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. This struck me playing through this level about just the color coding of this game, and once you see it, you might not be able to unsee it. It's a little bit of a it's a little bit of like an unlocked noticeable thing. In Mario games, they keep everything so bright and fresh on purpose. That is Mario's aesthetic. When you're thinking about like maybe Super Mario Brothers 3 or 3D World, like the really Mushroom Kingdom-y looking ones, you'll have those big, stupid blocks that are just like one primary color, right? Mm-hmm. And that is the way that Nintendo artists have color-coded that franchise in general. Like Mario is bright, primary colors, the very primary. Donkey Kong is similarly bright. So if you're trying to start like a color identity for Donkey Kong, especially with Bananza, where you're effectively like refreshing what the series can look like. It's like the 5th refresh for Donkey Kong as a franchise, right? You need to think through pretty carefully of like, if I pick the exact same colors, because we do kind of have we have the Bananza art team from the Odyssey art team. If it's the same colors here, it's gonna maybe look too much like Mario. So what they did was, where Mario really relies heavily on the primary colors of light in most of its stuff that it does. It uses deep blues and deep reds and deep greens, the primary colors of light. Bananza uses the primary colors of pigment or paints, the secondary colors of lights, the subtractive color mixing primary colors. So you'll see cyan, magenta, and yellow all over the place. That's the printer ink colors that you buy. Cyan, magenta, and yellow. And look at the logo for this game. The word Bananza is in bright yellow, but then like the underlit light shining up at the logo is cyan on one side and magenta on the other side. If you read through the developer direct with them talking about like what they wanted to do, they talk about how Miyamoto said that Donkey Kong is about neon, which is a crazy thing to say, but sure.
I've always said that, and people thought we were crazy.
Well, it is cool to say it because there wasn't much evidence, but it turns out to be true. And the neon they like specifically pointed at was the bright cyan ladders and the reddish magenta-ish girders of the original Donkey Kong arcade game.
Yeah. And
when you have a Bananza charged up and ready to go into Bananza in the bottom left hand of the screen, you'll see it flash between yellow to cyan to magenta to yellow to cyan to magenta. These are the colors of this game, where Mario's red, blue, green, and white. Bananza is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And it's cool. It's just it's a cool differentiating thing that makes DK, again, it's like one more thing that makes DK feel like, yeah, it is in reference to Mario. It exists as another side of that coin rather than a completely different coin like Zelda maybe does. But it's clearly doing something that Mario isn't.
Yeah.
And this level is completely built on it. It's the cyan waters and the yellow grass and everything, and the magenta boom rocks, and it all just kind of comes together in that way. Also, something I felt like you might not have picked up on just because you haven't played the Zelda games, the recent Zelda games. Diving into this layer is absolutely, I'm fully convinced of it, a reference and parody of diving into the first Sky Island in Tears of the Kingdom. I think it's purposeful. It is the exact same, like, the Sky Islands in that game have the yellow grass that makes it look... It makes it look like you're diving into something that is, like, autumn, but it's spring at the same time. And this sublevel 100 totally just looks like that first Sky Island. I truly think it's a parody, like, done on purpose, which would be the most rare feeling thing in the world, to, like, parody an existing successful Nintendo game. Now Nintendo's doing it themselves. Also, before we stop talking about colors, because I feel like I'm taking over a little bit. But one more thing, I want to talk about the green metal that's everywhere in this level.
Yeah.
So the green level made me think of, like, it looks like 3 or 4 different references all at once. The fact that it is green metal is, I mean, maybe immediately evocative of Mechanical Crocodile Isle of DK64.
Okay.
But to me, especially that, like, green metal bowl that they have that's full of water with the pipe coming out of it, the way that was textured reminded me exactly of those green brick towers in Treasure Trove Cove in Banjo-Kazooie. And looking at that made me feel like, oh, we're for sure looking at something that would exist from this team for a Donkey Kong game and not a Mario game. Although the whole reason it exists and is this color, I'm sure, is because it's Mario green pipes. Like, that's the thing. That's the joke. That's the reference they're making. We're underground, and these are pipes conveying water, like plumbing pipes, and we're making them big and green, like Mario's pipes. Like, that's what it is. It's for Mario pipes. But we're seeing such, like, a distressed version of those warp pipes. We're seeing such a different take and perspective on those pipes that it looks... It took me a while to even think, oh yeah, warp pipes is why I am, like, clicking with this and remembering it as something. Because it just feels so totally not that, even though it is that.
Well, they've done such a good job of distinguishing it from that Mario green warp pipe. It's got, like, grit or detail that you wouldn't ordinarily see because it's such an iconic, simplistic thing.
Yeah.
You know,
it's the same pipes, but in this game, they're dirty and scratched and cobbled together. And in Odyssey, they would be perfect and shiny. Yeah, but they're the same.
Oh yeah, it's got some hair on its chest. You know, it's got a little scarring and a little. It's lived a life. These pipes.
Yeah.
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 Check it in
with
the
colors. Those are just some colors I know.
Checking in with a live stream, just a banana in my pocket says, I love how DK Mario can be in the same world with the same pipes, but DK's neck of the woods is just so rough that even the pipes look messed up. I mean, I think that's just the visual identity of Donkey Kong too. And I mean, not at first, right? But I think Donkey Kong Country kind of set that template that Donkey Kong will just have a little bit more, like, not visual punch per se, but it will be more in line with a few degrees separate from our own reality or our own world itself. Just slightly askew, a little bit more cartoony, but not as stylized as Mario, not as hyper individualized for that series as Mario is. So I mean, I appreciate that. And it's interesting hearing you say, like, oh, this could be a reference or a parody to this Nintendo property. Because, of course, I'm not thinking in those terms because I am the person who just played Odyssey this month. Anyway.
Yeah,
Mitchell,
there's just a lot of communication going on between this game and the rest of, like, Nintendo's offerings as a whole now. where clearly the most direct comparison is Odyssey, but also Odyssey wasn't the game that established Nintendo as a worker within these open systemic levels. That's the Zelda team.
Right.
Like, the Zelda games have been working on the systemic thing, and then Donkey Kong's taking from that too. And in the way that you can like go around and get this sort of maybe deeper lore story out of cartoony mascot looking characters. This was brought up in the live stream earlier as well. Like, that is a credit to Splatoon that Nintendo's probably even ready to think about those design directions again. It's taking like a lot of the best stuff from a lot of Nintendo's various franchises that, in seeing the game now, it's obvious that they were destined to come together, but it didn't feel obvious at the time. It felt like all of those games were doing different things, and maybe they were all kind of leading toward one central idea, and it just so happens that Donkey Kong is at the receiving end of all of it.
I think it was natural. I think everything was building up so they could be ready to make a Donkey Kong game. Just Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Odyssey, Splatoon, training wheels that then come off for them to do what they were always destined to do, a magnificent 3D Donkey Kong game. That's my belief.
The Baby
that's
Metroid and Super Metroid is like odd rock in this game. It was just we're building toward it.
Yeah,
we're building toward it.
Before we move too far away from color theory, I also want to point out, and this is something that is a continual reoccurring thing throughout every layer, but how the plants, how the like surrounding scenery in the distance in the layer, it's all themed after a particular aspect of said layer. In this case, in the case of Lagoon layer, it is the monkeys, the simian faces that comprise the like stone structures on the leaves of the trees. You've got this very subtle shaping of the leaves, and you can see it on our YouTube thumbnail art for this episode, or on SoundCloud if you're one of the few who listen on there. You can see like the leaves are shaped like monkey faces, and it's just such a great subtle detail. And obviously, like I imagine most of our audience will have picked up on it, but I wonder how many people playing through the game, casuals, will notice that, or it won't register until they're a few layers deep and they start picking up on it.
Yeah, I would also be curious about that, because it is everywhere. But also Donkey Kong is a primate, so maybe you're just thinking like, yeah, it's Donkey Kong stuff. But then when you see a layer that isn't that, maybe it'll become more obvious. This is another thing that we actually saw a pretty direct predecessor for in a different Nintendo game, though. And it should be mentioned that Bowser's Fury has everything looking like a cat. Everything in that game is a cat. The bullet bills are a cat. The grass is like cat tails. Every mountain shape it has ears on it, like cat ears.
Yeah.
And it's, that's the whole game, because the whole game it's a pretty small game. And this game, it just lets that be the story for each layer, which is immediately more tolerable. Yeah, it makes me excited about it, rather than like, okay, another fucking cat. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, that's part of the fun of each layer, is just seeing, and it never feels obtrusive. It never feels like, this is really taken away from what would be a cool, beautiful layer. It always enhances it, and just a subtle way. And it's interesting, and I'm hard to please. You know that about me, Mitchell. Like, if you get too fanciful with something, I'm like, all right, you took that too far. I'm not invested in this anymore. My brain just can't make this journey. But it's straddling that line so perfectly that I'm really enthused by this more than I am like put off because it breaks my immersion or whatever.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice in a way that is pretty thin still and subtle still, even though it is literally every every flower and every leaf.
Yeah.
But also just because so many things game wide are bananas, like everything is a banana all the time. When you see a monkey leaf, you're like, okay, a pairing of a banana and a monkey. Nice. And it doesn't have to just be like, yeah, it's the 45th cat I've seen since I started the game. So, and I was actually pretty annoyed about it in Bowser's Fury. I felt like they couldn't get their heads out of like the cat zone to just make a game.
It's like the person who just bases their entire identity after being the cat person, and they have like the cat sweaters with like the airbrush cats on them.
Yeah, I haven't even told you I have a cat. You don't even know that about me. It's true.
I'm pretty sure I knew that about you.
Shh.
Okay.
I haven't told you about this. You don't know about it.
All right. No,
It's new.
I'll play along. So anyway, Sublayer 101, it also really gets into the hanging mechanic. And this comes up a little bit earlier by going into a ruin or a relic. I think they're called relics, maybe. But
yeah, they are officially called by the game bonus stages, so that's nice. But they're ruins.
There are bonus stages that are their own thing, like inconsequential to progression. Just like here, you can get a bunch of gold, and here we're gonna play the classic theme for you. The you know, do. That's the one.
I think they've used the word ruin or bonus stage for both the money one and the like challenge and battle ones.
Okay, well,
throughout the game, but you're right that they are also described, if not named, as ruins. They're ruins of some society.
Yeah. So you learn a little bit about the hanging there, and it took me a while, pun intended, to get the hang of it because I kept hitting the side and falling. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And then I realized if I swing the camera so I can actually see what Donkey Kong's grabbing onto, then I will know where not to go.
The old trick.
Yeah. Little life hack there. Actually utilize the tools the game provides you. Anyway, the big feature and the big name thing that you learn about early on through the Stone Lore tablets is the Orang-Uhang Highway, which is the like metal grating basically on the underside of Sublayer 100, but I mean kind of it's above Sublayer 101, and that's how you can get around from one platform to another. And then at the very end of Sublayer 101 in the distance is the Elder Court, where the Elder is stationed, and it's a big like shipping crate collective. I think it's a boat actually, like with shipping crates on it, but it just playing with
like
the
half of a freighter.
Yeah, it's playing with the idea that this is just a civilization that is mostly formed through what has been salvaged from above, from shipwrecks or whatever. And it was, really cool. I mean, this is something I saw and picked up on early on in the pre-release hype cycle, and seeing like this Kong Elder with the shipping crates. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool touch. Like this has all been washed down from the sea, and just really cool that like you have this very on the surface regal looking figure, but it's basically in this throne of trash, you know. Loved it. And then Sublayer 102 is not really much. It's the basement area, primarily consisting of Chimpy Channel, and it's dangling above the abyss. And this is where the sinkhole to the next realm, Sublayer 200, is located. But of course, there's a boss fight, which we'll get to. But anyway, we mentioned the bonus areas or shrines, if you will. But ruins. They warp you, most of them warp you to these pocket realms similar to the bonus areas in Odyssey. Although I think there's a little bit more wiggle room here, given that, you know, the stretch and size of the underground world. It's like, oh, this is some like area further away that you're getting warped to. But the ones that go through a triangular door that you punch through are effectively obstacle courses that focus on a particular skill, and they always house 3 Banandium gems. You get 1 at the halfway point just for making it halfway. You get 1 at the very end for getting through the obstacle course. And then there's always 1 hidden somewhere in the area. Classic Donkey Kong fashion. You have to use your noggin and like figure out, oh, you know, where slightly off the beaten path might this Banandium gem be? And how do I get there? And I find these really engaging. Like in Odyssey, sometimes I would groan. I'd be like, oh, I got to do another one of these. It's fine, whatever. But so far, I'm really digging these.
Yeah, I like these a lot. The alternative is the 1 banana like battle challenge ones that are a puck on the ground that you go into. But the triangle on the wall ones that are 3 bananas, they're usually a highlight for me. I like seeing that more directed challenge kind of thing in the middle of your free roaming, expressive platformer kind of thing in the overworld. It's a really nice change of pace, and focusing on the hanging so much in a lot of these was great because you have so much more freedom when you're hanging than I thought you would. I didn't realize at first that you can do a roll while you're hanging onto the ceiling, and you can punch freely.
Yeah.
You can pick things up and then get on the ceiling. That's wild. I wouldn't have assumed it worked that way. But yeah, it's usually having your hands occupied with something else is like game code for, well, you can't do everything you could have done before. But Donkey Kong is never encumbered at all in any way through this game, and that extends to here as well. He's just like still fully capable. He can even clap, as Andre says in the chat. He just does it with his feet.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the great thing about Donkey Kong versus Mario is Mario's a guy. He's acrobatic, for sure, but he's just a guy. Donkey Kong is an ape, and Donkey Kong, I think they kind of lean more into what would be an orangutan's moveset in this game, and I'm fine with that. Fudge it all you want, because it really does make Donkey Kong feel more versatile as a 3D platforming star than your Marios or your Banjos or your Kazooies.
Yeah. Because you don't have to have the 5 Kongs like Donkey Kong 64 does. The like rolling and acrobatics that Diddy would have, you can have the incredible strength that Chunky would have. You would have the like crazy arm moves that Lanky would have. You can have even the spinny move that would be Tiny's thing with her little pigtails. Now you can do a spinny move too. It's just like so much thought and effort has been put into elevating the character of Donkey Kong above anything that he's ever been before. And even though, you know, we're both here because we love the rare games the most out of Donkey Kong's purview, at least up to this point, right? And in those games don't make Donkey Kong feel particularly like an all-star among the Kong cast. He is one of them. He's a very good one of them. But like he's not even the strong one in DK64. And
he's a master of nothing.
In the Country Trilogy, he's a mascot for sure. Like in the Country Trilogy, he's out after the first game. And he's not in the first spin-off that the series even gets with Diddy Kong Racing. They were more than happy to not have Donkey Kong in that game. And it makes a lot of sense for that game, for what they were trying to do. And clearly one of Nintendo's big goals in revitalizing the Donkey Kong intellectual property this time around is we can't really elevate other Kongs as much, which is a pretty rough sacrifice. But we're gonna make Donkey Kong himself as a solo character kick so much ass that it should be okay. It should be a good trade-off. I would have liked to see a version of this game where there's other playable Kongs. Obviously, that would have been fun.
Well,
to me, that's like part of the franchise identity of Donkey Kong, especially Country. But they are so focused. They are so focused on this character.
Here's the thing. As a Diddy Kong kid, as somebody who my favorite characters are Diddy and Dixie, and Donkey Kong out of the cast is probably down there a little bit. I'm perfectly fine with this. I think because Bananza is so respectful of everything that's come before, going back to 1981 through the Rare era, even through the retro games, I don't feel displaced as a fan. And I like that they are making this game makes me like Donkey Kong even more than I already liked the character of Donkey Kong. And I'm fine with that. Because I like Donkey Kong, Mitchell. The little fact about me, a little piece of trivia. I like the character of Donkey Kong. And this game not only makes Donkey Kong so much fun to play as, but they just nail the character. Exactly what I would want the character to be. Any fears I had that they would get the character wrong, out the window. Like they nailed him. I'm happy with this Donkey Kong. This isn't like all of my little quibbles about the buyout era, and I don't like how Donkey Kong was portrayed in Jungle Beat per se. Not speaking to the quality of Jungle Beat as a product, but just as a fan going into it, I wasn't really happy with Donkey Kong's depiction in that game. This game, perfect. No real complaints.
Yeah, in Tropical Freeze, there's 5 playable Kongs. In the Switch version, there are. And in 64, there's 5 playable Kongs. And in both of those games, if you really made me rank the Kongs, I would probably put... Of the Tropical Freeze bunch, I would put Donkey Kong as my least favorite of that group. Still good, but Diddy and Dixie are awesome. Funky and Cranky are so fun. In 64, even, maybe Donkey's not quite last, but he actually might still be last. They're really good other Kongs in that game, and that's what the series has always kind of been about, elevating your fun family members to the point where I have not, as much as I've liked the series and as much as I'd liked the DKU at large, I've not really been head over heels in love with the namesake character on his own before this game. And in this game, he's so good. And I feel such a stronger connection to him than ever before. It makes me want to play as him more in something like Mario Kart, even though I have not played as Donkey Kong that much in Mario Kart, because I don't really go for the heavy characters that often. But it's just a really good characterization. There's more stuff way beyond this chapter. This actually has nothing to do with this layer in particular, but it's you got me on the podcast, and I'm going to say opinions.
No, it's great. I mean, that's part of the fun of these Bananza episodes is I'm trying to get in a different co-host for each episode, and I try to tailor the co-host for the episode, and sometimes they volunteer, but this is interesting. This is fascinating because I'm getting the Mitchell Wolfe perspective on Bananza by large versus, just focusing on Lagoon Layer, which is what I wanted, but, anyway, that was a tangent because we were talking about hanging, were we not? But yeah, it is just a fun structure, these triangular obstacle course shrines. But then, as you already said, we've got the battle arenas, which are effectively like from Donkey Kong 64. They've taken that concept. Even the circular pad is taken from Donkey Kong 64. In this case, you punch down on it and you get sucked into this little arena, and you're fighting waves of Void Code baddies for a single Banandium gem. It's more quick and dirty, one and done, but you're still utilizing some aspect or strategy to dispatch these baddies. It's not just here are waves of, and like DK64, here are waves of critters, deal with it, whatever. There's a little bit more nuance and strategy involved here. I like these as well. And it's also a good way for you to learn, like, how to confront these enemies, and it's not a big deal. Like the peekaboo boids. They terrified me at first. I was like, what the fuck is this? Just a giant wall of little octopus creatures coming at me. Didn't like it. Wasn't a fan. Tentacle scary. But
it is.
Once you actually fight them head on, and you're like, oh, okay, I know what to do now. Just don't let them get on my head. Cool. And then outside of the actual, like, we're warping you to this little area, you've got the Shifty Smash challenges that are activated in the general game world. You hit a triangle of a floating little shape, and it causes shifty stone structures to materialize out of thin air, and you need to destroy them all within a certain time. And you get
This is some of the most Mario Odyssey feeling stuff in, like, the whole game. This is that is such a very specific thing that feels exactly like it could have happened in Mario Odyssey. There was a lot of stuff in Odyssey that were like, you put your hat on a pole or a scarecrow for a little bit, and then something emerges right in front of you, and like, oh, you got 20 seconds, go. This is direct carryover.
Although there's no scarecrow in this case. And I'm fine with there not being a scarecrow.
I'm glad there's no scarecrow. Those are scary to me.
Yeah, I mean, I sympathize with the crow, our noble bird friends. And, crows are interesting. Crows are fascinating. That's a whole tangent. But did you know that if a crow's, like, pegs you as a threat to crow kind, you will then be a villain to the crows in the general area. Like, they'll spread the word. Don't trust that person, and you don't want that death mark on your head.
I got dive bombed into my shoulder 6 times in the same place on my walk within the last, like, month and a half. Mm-hmm. I didn't do anything to upset this bird, but maybe I look like someone who did.
Yeah.
And they've really just been flying to their own health detriment very hard into my shoulder. This has been something that's happening in my life, and I get freaked out about it, and I have to, like, rub off their bird dust from my shirt. There's a little bird dust. Sometimes birds get dusty, Hyle, and of all the things birds do, this is actually one of my least favorite parts of bird. Yeah.
It's freeze-dried bird flu. You want to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
I won't eat it anymore.
This is why people tune into this podcast, because not only do they get good Donkey Kong chat, but they get good bird advice. And I think they need that, because people don't want to hear it. Be nice to crows, or else anybody who looks like you will be a target. But it's true. It is true. You got to be nice to the birds. Got to do it. Anyway, I like the Shifty Smash challenges, though, because even though it is like those Scarecrow challenges in Odyssey, it's a lot more focused, and it focuses on the central destruction conceit of the game. And there are different ways to go about it. Sometimes you actually do, in Lagoon Layer, you do barrel blasting. You blast out of barrel cannons. And I appreciate all the times they implement barrel cannons in the game, because it always feels slightly different, and they have a slightly different purpose, but it always feels authentic to the Donkey Kong experience, translated into 3D, which isn't easy to do. See Donkey Kong 64 for more.
Yeah, it's really the first time that it's been translated into 3D in the way that they worked in the country games.
The closest was the kind of 3D barrel blasting segments in Tropical Freeze, or the 2.5D rather.
Right.
But yeah, like it's really well done here. I really appreciate it. But yes, the little finer details in Lagoon Layer I want to touch upon. Ambient wildlife. So each layer has, and this is something Odyssey did as well, but each layer has this little critters that run about. They're not baddies. They just live in the layer. They usually have some sort of crystalline structure, some sort of growth on them, because they do live in the underground world, and this is just how they have evolved. But in Lagoon Layer, you've got little blue crabs that are scurrying around. And as you're smashing terrain, as you're digging through, occasionally a little crab will pop up, and you're like, oh, hi, buddy. I'm sorry I've just smashed your hiding spot.
It is, yeah, it's really nice. It's, the whole game feels so lived in.
Yeah.
In addition to all of the main NPCs or the sort of constants like the elevators or whatever. There's the world's alive. It's fully alive in plants and animals everywhere. That aspect of it is so ever present, and like I think it speaks to the understanding of this character and this world and this franchise. That when Nintendo has previously made their own Donkey Kong games since the beginning, like the arcade games are not particularly based on nature that much. Jungle Beat is natural in its setting, but it's not really about it. And then the Mario versus Donkey Kong games are all not it either. No. So this is the first Donkey Kong game Nintendo has made themselves. I guess I shouldn't quite say that because Retro is Nintendo, but other than Retro,
no, I know what you mean,
that demonstrates that understanding of nature and that understanding of the natural world, but also that man-made objects are part of the natural world. Like those storage crates aren't antithetical to there being nature there. It's part of the nature of this level. It's just really nice.
You mentioned the elevator, so I'm going to talk about them really quick, because we are introduced to the elevators in this world by way of the little elevators, the children of the enormous elevator. And this isn't a spoiler because this came up, in the pre-release information. You don't meet the mama elevator yet, the elevator who takes you between layers that you've already visited. These are the little elevators, the children who serve as the fast travel between checkpoints and like later on getaways in Bananza. Mm-hmm. And this is such a brilliantly dumb conceit to have a form of fast travel. So Odyssey, of course, Cappy could just fling itself across the world, and you could just land on whatever checkpoint pole you already visited, and you're there. Here, it's almost like the Rare method of, here, we're going to bring in more characters to facilitate the needs of the game. And in this case, the elevators are this underground race, almost like the legends of sandworms or like the Tremors movies. They are underground eels that can phase through matter, apparently. And they will swallow Donkey Kong and Oddrock / Pauline and then wiggle on through. As the first elevator or little elevator you meet says, we're underground eels. There's two things we love, singing and wiggling, which, hell yeah, like that is a life goal right there. If I could just sing and wiggle, I don't think I would have any problems. But
it's a nice time.
It's a great time. But yeah, they swallow you, they then, phase through matter and get back to the point you wanted to go to. Why can they only travel to points you've already been to? As they explain, their mama doesn't want them going too far from home. And that is the kind of bullshit logic that sustains me. I just
I love that.
I love that they just went out of their way to explain it. Don't think about it too much. Don't think about it too much. But there's a reason. And it's because their mama doesn't want them to go too far from home. They're just little children. And, you know, I didn't know how I'd feel about elevators. I was like, you know, it might be too daft. It might be a little bit too bonkers of an idea. I love elevators. They're great. They're terrific.
So when I was replaying this level to prepare for this podcast, I did a little experiment where I knew that I had not talked to a little elevator yet, because the first time I played through the game, I hadn't fast traveled, and then I talked to a little elevator, and it explained that it could do that, and then I tried it, and it worked. This time, I had not talked, or even I had not even seen one yet, and I tried to fast travel, and then a little elevator came out of the ground and did it. So it always works. But it is very strange that that's true, considering that if this was my first playthrough, I would have no idea what the fuck that was. You immediately fast travel, like a blue little snake guy comes out of the ground and eats you, and then eventually spits you out somewhere else, and there's no conversation the whole way through. Wild.
Yeah, that would kind of be the thing if that happened to me. Like the crow dive bombing you. If that happened to me, I would be like, what did I do wrong? Why is this eel coming out of the ground and swallowing me?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's just one of those parts of life when you get older, you know. Just sometimes a little eel comes out of the ground and swallows you, and you can make a big deal about it if you want, but it's just faster to go through it.
Always be nice to the eels in your life as well. Little pro tip there. Just, you know, you never know. So another Direct Odyssey comparison is Cranky Kong, because Cranky Kong serves as the Captain Toad of Bananza. This familiar character who is kind of sometimes hiding in rather obscure corners of the layer, and in this case, his general location will be suggested by Ramby's presence. You see Ramby, and you know Cranky is nearby. And, you know, I really like this mechanic. I really like this utilization of Cranky. I think it was the right call.
It's nice. It's really good.
It's the best. And we've talked about this in the hype cycle. I don't really want to linger too much on Cranky, because we've already seen the bulk of the rants in this layer in the, like, this second day of Bananza news. Like, we already knew what he had to say here. But I just think that Cranky, the fact that he is going on this parallel adventure to Donkey Kong, or I guess vertical downwards adventure, like, the game's loading screen info will tell you he's going on his own adventure. You know, he's getting up to his own shit. And it's just vague enough, you know, like, you're like, oh, what's Cranky up to? Like, where is this going? And the fact that he's doing it with just a garden shovel is the dumbest, the dumbest thing, because Donkey Kong and Pauline, they have to go through this whole process of finding the key and undoing the plug and finding the sinkhole and going through it. And Cranky, he's just digging through the earth. And it's just like, how is that working? Don't worry about it. He's Cranky Kong. He knows what he's doing. It's the best Cranky has been written since Rare.
Oh, for sure. And even without that, it's just nice to see a character. This is something that Jeff complained about, and I didn't really even notice it before he said it. And now it's so hard not to see it. A quibble for sure with the game is that you're in this new level full of salvager monkeys and the Kong Elder. And like, there's no one monkey that you remember or has a name or does something different or like picks a fight with you or anything. It's made up for in the game with these traveling characters that you do keep seeing, like the Void Co. and Cranky and others, and Odd Rock, of course, who is soon to be Pauline, which are very characterful, but like that Banjo-Kazooie thing of, well, this is Freezeezy Peak, it's about Christmas, so let's have you meet a polar bear and a walrus. Like that doesn't really happen as much anymore in this game of specific level locals. But when you see Cranky after you've talked to a bunch of Salvager monkeys and you're like putting together how you feel about this new species of Donkey Kong fixtures that you're just meeting for the first time now, you're like, oh, I do know Cranky though. It's him. It's a specific man.
Yeah,
it's
specific man.
Ape.
It's actually has that on his business card. Cranky Kong, specific man at large. No, I agree with that. I mean, you know how I'm wired. You know how I value individual characters above all else. I mean, that is my bread and butter. That is my fetish. And that is why I gravitated to Rare's games, because like in a Banjo-Kazooie adventure, you are going to encounter so many weirdos, and they are individual weirdos. They are unique. And I do wish some of these Salvager monkeys, like, hi, I'm Fred, or hi, I'm Luann. You know, like
just like a couple of them should be notable, like, because Nuts and Bolts actually does this quite well in comparison, where the thing that Odyssey and Bananza have over the first two Banjo games is, like, these games have towns. These games have large collections of people, things that the Nintendo 64 couldn't possibly have done. And it is just more difficult to put in a game anyway. Like, this is the harder thing to do. But then in Nuts and Bolts, you had like, okay, here's a showdown town. It's full of penguins and pigs and other animals. But one of those pigs is notable because he's the chief of police. And that's a bad character. But he is one of them. He is a character with a name. His name is Picolet. Or however you're supposed to pronounce it. That is, I think, a middle ground that would be nice to see in, if there's a third one of these, either from Mario or Donkey Kong, on the way next. It would be nice to see them, like, just throw in some more characters. You get the feeling that it is really not Nintendo's thing that they want to do. I hope they change their mind on it, because Zelda does it quite well. Zelda has named characters and it's fine. Just say that some of them are Greg and I'll be a lot happier about it.
Yeah. Greg and Chris and Steve and Shigeru, and just name them after esteemed Donkey Kong creators, and it'll be fine. But like, Nintendo does so many things they didn't used to do in games like Bananza and Odyssey that I'm okay that they don't do everything to my taste. It's
of course.
I never thought we would get a Donkey Kong game from Nintendo that does as much as this does. So I really feel like I'm not going to complain about this. Like, maybe in a year or two, I'll say, one of those Salvager monkeys should have been like a real character and not just blending in with the crowd. But, I'm not going to lose sleep over it right now.
I really would like the Kong Elder to have had a little bit more. That's one that I will put a bit of a button on. Like, if the Elder is specific and important, just being named Kong Elder is a little bit below my bar for what I would want from a specific and different NPC in a world.
Yeah, I know, but it's part of a group of elders. So I get it. Like, again,
he can still be the Kong Elder, but also if his name was Jimmy Kong, the Kong Elder, that's a little bit more. That's just a little bit closer.
True. I see what you're saying. I smell what you're cooking. I understand. But one thing I will say, thank God, no posh Ramby so far. Ramby's silent, and you can high five him, and he gets annoyed because you're just smacking him across the face or the ass. But like he's not just, oh yes, hello, I'm Ramby. Oh yes, I'm the rhino. You might remember me from past adventure. You know, none of that. None of that. I appreciate it. But let's talk about the fossils a little bit, Mitchell, if you're okay with that, because
I'm allowing it. Yeah.
Okay, because the fossil system, they effectively are the regional currency in Super Mario Odyssey, because you can use them in the style shop, and the style shop is established in Lagoon Layer, and you can buy new clothing or fur dyes for Donkey Kong. And I have to say, I like the fossils a lot more than the regional currency, because the regional currency, they were just like in clumps around the worlds of the kingdoms of Odyssey, and you don't necessarily, you can lose track of, oh, I haven't gotten 4 coins.
It is very hard to get the all of the regional currency in an Odyssey level. It is harder to do than notes in either Banjo game. It's, even though there are also 100 of them, it's tough.
So
it's tough to keep track of all of them.
I appreciate the fossils. They're more disparate. I mean, they're scattered more uniformly, usually just one at a time. Sometimes they're clumped together if it's a special occasion, but there's also a way to track, and that's through the fossil maps. And so I really appreciated that. And also, you know, Lagoon Layer, this game really does slow walk you into getting all Donkey Kong head-assy, in that it doesn't really revel in the Donkey Kong elements early on. It slow walks you to that. It gets you invested in the game itself, and then it starts to incorporate that a little bit later. But of course, going into this game, you know, it's like, oh, there's going to be fossils based on Donkey Kong species, like Donkey Kong specific species, spins on, you know, animals from our world, but they are the Donkey Kong variants of that. I'm excited about that. References, you know, oh boy, we haven't had references in so long. But one thing I do appreciate is in Lagoon Layer, you don't get any of that. You just get real world fossils. But it's educational. Yeah. It's educational, Mitchell. I'm learning something. It's like my museum crawl. I'm learning as I'm playing.
It is interesting. I don't know what to make of it, really, that some of them, they're fine being complete fake, just like DKC references, and others are like, well, we gotta really dress it up and be presentable about this. And because in Lagoon Layer, they're all real animals, and none of them, I mean, I'm sure there is a whale in like Returns or something I'm not thinking about right now, but
there is, but it's not. This is a prehistoric whale.
Sure, yeah, it's not this one. It's just like it's not even stuff. It's not even the real version of stuff that is in Donkey Kong. This one's completely not a reference. And then later there's some that are completely and only references, and it doesn't even try to like be the real version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
I like it. I like it though. You get 3 forms of fossil. You get the standard fossil, which in Lagoon Layer there's 61. And that's the one you're most likely to find. They will sparkle in kind of a white sheen. You get the rare fossil, which is always a trip to see rare fossil in your map, and you're like, what rare? What about rare? What? Oh, yeah, no, it's not that rare.
They're not shy about using the word rare in this game in ways that are absolutely not references.
Yeah.
They'll just do it.
The rare fossil is, again, more rare. In this case, there's only 10 of them, and they will sparkle in red. And then you get the one large singular legendary fossil. and that will shimmer in kind of an orangey gold, and it will require some effort because you will see it. It will be apparent. There's even dialogue about, like, characters will be like, in this case, it's the whale, right? And the one salvager monkey's like, it kind of looks like a whale, you know, one of them legendary surface sea critters. And I love
we have a lot of
sea.
respect for whales down here.
Yeah, but I love that, like, surface sea. That's what they call the ocean.
Yeah.
It's so great. But yeah, the regular fossils here are ammonite, the little like,
it's a snail.
It's kind of snail, but related to squids and octopuses. And then you've got the, I'm going to botch this. I actually put a pronunciation guide in my show notes. Anomalocaris. It's the little, it's the large shrimp. And apparently its name means odd shrimp. And I learned that from Donkey Kong Bananza. So thank you, Donkey Kong Bananza.
Thank you, Donkey Kong Bananza.
No, it's great. It's great to learn. It's great to learn real things. It doesn't all have to be dumbass DKU references. I'm not that basic. I like understanding the world around me. Anyway, you can.
If there is a reference in here, I was wondering if it was in the Anomalocaris blurb. Because it says, it looks large, but nothing whose name means odd shrimp could have been that big of a deal. And I was wondering if they were trying to maybe draw some connection to Odd Rock, who you still have at this point in the game.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really make that much sense as a connection. So I don't know.
Well, it gets you thinking about what's the deal with Odd Rock. Is there something more to Odd Rock than just being this anthropomorphic rock? Think about it. Put that in your noggin.
I haven't been on the podcast to talk about Odd Rock at all. And can I just say,
yeah,
I am so glad it's not on the box art. I hated the way it looked on the box art. It looked like this, like, just blocky little stupid, like Nintendo at their most twee, just like, here's a little face on a rock, and like, come on, man. It was the best feeling in the world when Odd Rock turned into Pauline on the box art, and I realized, okay, that's a character. That's a character that's going to be on this video game box.
I have to say, I did linger as long as I could with Odd Rock, because I'm like, you know, I got attached to the concept of Odd Rock, even if Odd Rock was basically the Sir Blobsworth of my nightmares from 1996, when I would have dreams about what Donkey Kong Country 3 would be before it was even announced. And I had a dream that Diddy was partnered with this little purple blob character named Sir Blobsworth with a top hat and monocle. and I was like,
that's worse.
That's the dumbest thing ever. I really hope Donkey Kong Country 3 doesn't do that. And here comes Odd Rock, and Odd Rock sans monocle and top hat, and not made of protoplasmic slime, but is a rock, but still effectively identical to Sir Blobsworth of my nightmares, which I now recognize was a premonition. I have the psychic gift, Mitchell, but I got attached to the concept of Odd Rock, even though because of that Nintendo of Korea oopsie doodle, we kind of knew that Odd Rock wasn't going to just be Odd Rock, and that there was going to be a twist.
It made me so immediately relieved when I saw that. I hate the design of Odd Rock, and if I can be honest with you, as character designs, I don't love the little elevators, or not this layer, but also not a spoiler because people know about it, the fractones. I don't like this style that we're going for. It's fine in the context of this game, but if this is like on my shoulder the whole time, I am not having a great time. But then Pauline, she's so much better. I love her.
Yeah,
she's my special daughter.
Pauline's great. And you get Pauline, and this isn't like, I knew this, even being unspoiled effectively, because of course I followed the hype cycle, you know, and I watched the direct along with everyone else listening to this, I knew as soon as I talked to the Kong Elder and I got the record and I put it on the Eterna table. Eterna table. That's right. The record, the vinyl player is called the Eterna table. It's great. It's so dumb. But I knew that would then effectively be adieu to Odd Rock, and we would then have Pauline for the rest of the adventure. And yeah, Pauline. I didn't know how I was gonna feel, honestly, about the adventure of young Pauline with Donkey Kong here, and their relationship, and a human in a Donkey Kong platformer. Just like, I really like Pauline. I really like her relationship with Donkey Kong. I think, the developer, Ask the Developer interview on Nintendo.com, they talked specifically about putting a human to be the eyes and ears and viewpoint for new players coming into Donkey Kong's world. And I think it actually works. I think that it's really giving us a new spin on what the Donkey and Diddy relationship was 30 years ago that you couldn't do anymore because they are so established and Diddy has come so far and you don't have that getting to know each other phase. And
it's a great.
Yeah, it really does. It brings out the nurturing side of Donkey Kong, and he gets a little annoyed with her, especially when the de-transformation from Odd Rock happens, and the Kong Elder's like, sing the Bananza, and she's like, sing in front of people? Oh, I can't do it. I won't do it. And she has a little temper tantrum, and Donkey Kong is just losing his patience and shit in the background. It's great.
Yeah.
Because it does. That is a side of Donkey Kong, but Donkey Kong, he allows himself to have that frustration, and then he reels it back in, and then
he also just met her, so any kind of hesitance that she's showing about singing, he's like, "What is wrong, dude? Just get with it. We are on stage right now. I am so pissed off."
Yeah. I'm 100 layers from home. We have this long adventure ahead of us. Can we get on with it? And Pauline's great. And I have a lot more to say about Pauline in the layers to come. And she's really not much of a factor in Lagoon Layer because the transformation happens towards the end. When you talk to the Kong Elder and you put the record on the Eterna table. It's so hard to say. But
Eterna table is rough, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a rough pun.
It is. But then I love that this Kong Elder, he's you think he's this stoic, mystical, almost imposing figure. And he's like, but I'm also an aspiring DJ.
Yeah.
It's just that little added element of what does this immortal being get up to on his throne.
I like
of
the
garbage.
word aspiring there.
Yeah.
Because the idea that this guy is just kind of good at something and that's what he focuses on is great.
Yeah, well,
he's not great yet. He's just he's getting there.
I mean, the concept of a DJ would have been in the blink of an eye in this guy's lifetime. So yeah, he's not great at it because he hasn't really had much of his lifespan to practice being a DJ. But I like that that's become the defining aspect of his personality. Like a cat person would have a cat sweater. This guy is just all about being that DJ, and he lives that life. And the people around him don't seem to be annoyed by it, because once you activate the Bananza and you go through the little training scenario, then you see so many of the denizens of Lagoon Layer are around there, they have bore witness to this, and they're just enraptured by it. The one elevator or little elevator is this is the life what we just witnessed.
Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah. So Pauline's great. And also, can I just point out one attention to detail about this whole general area of the Elder Courts, the shipping container freighter. If you climb up it before the cutscene activates, you can see Poppy Kong through behind the bars.
That's cool.
Yeah. And this is something that happens in later layers too. Like, if you pay close enough attention, you will see characters in the background. They're already there. And because of course I took my time, I explored every area before I advanced the story. And as soon as I could climb up on the shipping crate, and I was like, oh my god, there's Poppy. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I just say about Pauline before we move on? Because I might not have the opportunity later on when you get to her more. I really like her as a specific way that it feels like Nintendo is reclaiming this series. Because, here's the thing. I want more in an optimal, alternate universe where this isn't fraught with legal trouble and company partnerships and all that stuff. Of course, we would want to see what more Rare developed mainline Donkey Kong games would have looked like, right? There probably would have been one on the GameCube and the Wii, and maybe the Wii U and the Switch and Switch 2 that would have been likely to happen. But we didn't get that. And when Jungle Beat came out and was a complete refresh of the entire, not just like all the characters are gone, but really the concept of what a Donkey Kong game could be was starting clean over. The DKU-ish community had an understandable reaction to that, right?
It was a little spicy, as you might say.
I like Jungle Beat a lot, but the world of it is the weakest part by far. And it is easy to draw the connection between it being the weakest part of that game and also the fact that it restarted when they had a perfectly fine brand identity going on that Rare started in the 90s. And when Returns happened, it was yet another refresh. But it was like that. The world of Donkey Kong in Donkey Kong Country Returns is Donkey Kong Country minus. It's like all that stuff, except a little bit less. It's fewer characters. The island is there, but it's not a face. It's just like, it's less. It like what the world and brand identity, what the franchise Donkey Kong was, as started in Returns, is a subsection with very little added of what the Super Nintendo games had. And it was making up for it by just being a tremendously fun game to play. But that's something that was like a real problem with that game. So if you were to bring Donkey Kong back to the limelight, back to like the AAA S tier scale that you want a game that has as much like mainstream recognizability in its name as Donkey Kong, that's up there with Zelda, that's up there with Mario, that's up there with now Animal Crossing is at like that top level too. It kind of scurried up the ladder.
I would say Splatoon.
You need to Splatoon maybe a little. I feel like Splatoon might be like a little rung below, but it's high. Yeah, sure. But you probably need to restart the franchise again, which has nothing to do with like canon reboots, but just restarting as in refreshing, right? Because maybe the Returns and Tropical Freeze world didn't have the stuff to make that franchise be as widely loved as it could be. And the thing with Jungle Beat deleting all of the previous franchise identity in favor of starting a new thing was weak. But it also kind of needs to be understood in that sense that DKC 1 did that too. Like in DKC 1, Pauline is not there, Mario is not there. You don't throw barrels down girders. I mean, you can throw a barrel, but it's like not... It is not the arcade series just as much as Jungle Beat isn't the country series. And if Nintendo is going to reclaim this series in a way that makes it feel like it's theirs, even though they are using Rare developed identities, mixing the arcade and country worlds together so thoroughly maybe makes it so Nintendo can like claim it for themselves again without that weird bit of like, yeah, we own it, but you know, it's what you think of when you think of Donkey Kong. Most of it was developed by this company that now is owned by Xbox. That is a weird thing for them. They never bring it up in interviews because it would be weird to do so. But like,
they actually
I'm
did
sure
bring
that
it up
is strange.
They actually did bring it up in the Ask the Developer interview. Like there was even a notation in there about Rare and how Rare is now a subsidiary of Microsoft.
Yeah, it's this thing of like the next step after deciding you want to bring Donkey Kong back to that top level of prominence is, well, we need to feel like it is ours.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say we're going to throw away Rare era stuff. And clearly, like, you've got Cranky Kong in the direct. You saw the other characters that you saw. There's Rambi in this. Donkey Kong is like sort of a combination of the arcade and the country looks and also new stuff himself. But it's also, as much as it is a successor to the country and 64 era of Donkey Kong, it is also a successor to the arcade era of Donkey Kong, which is not the part I've cared about, but is the part that Nintendo has to in order to claim it as theirs. And I think it is in our best interest as fans of this thing continuing that the person who is charged with making it feels like they have ownership creatively. And Pauline is the way that happens.
So far, I really enjoy the harmonization of all things Donkey Kong in Bananza. It feels like the first game to really find a way to embrace the full history of this franchise that has been complicated by Nintendo effectively not knowing what to do with it after Mario took off, and then Rare finding a workable identity for it, but then Rare is bought by a competing company.
Yeah.
And then like, who's going to make Donkey Kong games? What do we do with Donkey Kong? Here, we're going to try 6 different directions simultaneously and see which one wins out. And then we're going to go back to what Rare was doing, but, you know, we're going to mute it a little bit. And then, oh no, now who's going to make Donkey Kong games again? I guess it's got to be us. And how do you make sense of that 40 plus years of history? I think Bananza does it. I do think they have found a way to honor everything. And as a fan,
it might have been the only way.
Yeah, and as like, a fan,
it's that.
As a fan of the country era onwards, as somebody who came aboard in 1994, really, I'm happy with this. I don't feel like I'm displaced. Like Jungle Beat, I did feel like Jungle Beat was just, and granted, there are a lot of factors going into my feeling that way, and some weren't warranted, but at the time, I felt like Jungle Beat didn't really care, and that wasn't true, but I feel like this game cares, and I feel like this game is comprised of people who like get it and respect every era of Donkey Kong, no matter what you're a fan of. When you became a fan of this weird concept of a gorilla chucking barrels, Bananza will have it in for you.
And I think it's so great that it happened in this particular way, because like when Donkey Kong was really just with Retro, our main way of asking for more was like, okay, well, what if the third Retro Donkey Kong country is like things we want. Like, can we get another Legacy Kong to show up? Maybe Lanky. He's been in the freezer for a while. Maybe the bad guy is finally the Kremlings again because he showed up in Smash Ultimate. Maybe we keep David Wise on the orchestration. Like the way we've had access to asking for more has always been built into returning to the one thing we knew could have done it, which was the rare stuff, right?
Yeah.
And in reality, anything that would have looked like that, Andre in the chat says Animal Buddies. Yeah, that's a great call. Yeah, Animal Buddies, and that honestly could have been better in this game too, but neither here nor there. Any like small step that started at Country Returns and then like got a little better in Tropical Freeze and then a little better in their next game in terms of that kind of like building out the I keep saying franchise identity. I really think that's what it is. Like the franchise identity until it could reclaim being as mainstream as it once was. None of those small steps were going to be big enough. They weren't going to be enough, even if we actually got the things we were asking for. It takes something that is as big of a swing as jumping as far over the finish line as something like Bananza is to have been able to do it. And I couldn't have pictured this happening.
Yeah.
This is where I have to take my hat off and say, like, yeah, you guys really figured this out in a way that I couldn't have predicted at all. It's clever and incredible.
It's exciting for me because this is the first time in a long time where I do feel like anything is potentially on the table again. The franchise, like the whole history can be utilized. Nothing has to be dismissed. I like, obviously you can't go into some of the Diddy Kong Racing stuff, some of the stuff that is just fully the domain of Rare still, but like it does feel so liberating that like it's possible. It's possible now. And like the fact that Bananza is just such a like vindication of Donkey Kong as a concept. It's something new, doing something new with the series, but it's still got so much of the returning DNA in it, and the fact that it is such a zeitgeisty kind of game that like it's getting people excited about Donkey Kong again in a way that outside of weirdos like us and our audience, like it really does just open doors. And
and what's so cool about it is like if there's any problems now, think about what a sequel could be if they addressed any. Yeah, like this is the starting point for the new realm of Donkey Kong.
I'm also looking at how they juggle Mario games and how they would do 2D Donkey Kong next, potentially. And it's exciting for me, like, because like that's the great thing about Bananza being so wonderful and pleasing is I now trust them. I now trust them to do Donkey Kong. And I mean, that was the big question mark hanging over us for all these years. We were talking about an EPD developed Donkey Kong game. Okay, yeah, great. Will they get it right? Like, even though the pedigree of EPD is obviously without dispute, will it be something that can correctly tap into whatever Donkey Kong is? Can they actually achieve that, considering this team has never made a Donkey Kong game and it has such a convoluted development history?
It is my favorite Donkey Kong game.
Okay.
It's my favorite.
It's too early for me to say. All right. People have been asking me, do you think it ranks on your top 10 list, Hyle? And I'm like, oh yeah. It's going to be high up there for sure.
You telling me it's joining the echelon of Star Fox Adventures and Grab by the Ghoulies?
I feel bad for Star Fox Adventures because Star Fox Adventures is no longer in my top 10 because make room for Bananza.
Yeah, if you ask me what my favorite DK game was before this game, I've always had a hard time because like DKC 2 and Tropical Freeze both excel where the other doesn't quite all the way, and they're so very, very good as 2D platformers, and Diddy Kong Racing is like up in that top 3 as well, and I would have no idea which of those 3 I'd say on any given day between DKC 2, Tropical Freeze, and Diddy Kong Racing. But now I do say recency bias is absolutely there. So ask me again in 2 years. But Bananza, I think, is my favorite DK game altogether.
And granted, like I haven't gotten anywhere close to completing Bananza, and Bananza completely shit the bed at the end. It could be like, whose ideas don't get enough respect? Adolf Hitler. And I'm like, whoa, Bananza, whoa.
Could happen.
No, we're done.
The Kong Elder is pretty old.
Yeah, I don't want to, put my foot ahead of me too much here and say like, I think Bananza is gonna, honestly, be above Banjo-Kazooie in my list, because then I could look like a damn fool when I get to the end and it does something to offend my sensibilities. But I, so far, am just enamored with this game in a way I haven't really felt, like, again, since the original Banjo-Kazooie, and it's like making me feel like a kid again playing a video game. And I didn't think that part of me was still alive, Mitchell. I thought that spark had been extinguished. I thought the young child inside me had become a hard, rigid, odd rock. And this game has activated the Bananza transformation within and freed my inner child. Before we wrap this up, I want to talk about the boss of the world.
Okay, I wasn't sure. You had the cadence. You had the cadence like we were going into it. I was waiting for the sound cue.
Well, we also have calls to take. So, but
okay.
So before we talk about the boss, I want to talk about some of the enemies in this layer, because to understand the boss, we have to understand the drones, the hapless mooks of Voidco who you have to dispatch with. We already mentioned Buzzoids. We mentioned the Peekaboo-poids, which are the little octopuses that form, they're in disguise, and then they like surprise, we're a bunch of octopuses, we're gonna jump on you. There's also the Anticoids, the hanging baddies on the hanging areas that you have to punch. And there are still Crocoids, of course, in this world as well. Crocoids are, some of the more common baddies in this. But the Peekaboo-poids specifically go into the boss, in that the boss, the Peekabruiser, which sounds like a really shitty Pokemon from, like, Gen 13 or something.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm speaking out of turn. You're the Pokemon guy. I'm just the Donkey Kong guy. I need to know
it's like a Gen 13 sort of name, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Peekabruiser is a whole mess of Peekaboo-poids mutated together to form one hideous monster.
Yeah. People have pointed to this boss in particular and drawn a pretty undeniable connection to Splatoon character design.
Yeah.
This absolutely looks like it's from Splatoon. Like, it's a boss from a Splatoon story mode for sure. Yeah, I gotta be honest. One weak point I feel about the game is these boss fights. Until toward the end of the game, they are very punchy, and then sort of they're gone. I do like the story of it being this like engineered beast by Grumpy Kong. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. To fight, I don't know if I really got a whole lot out of this first boss. They do try to continue the lesson of the level in this boss fight being it's going to turn into concrete, throw a bomb rock at it, and you learn more about the different material types because bomb rocks and concrete are so like so extreme in the list of different materials that exist in this game. You learn more about the throwing mechanic if you didn't have it down already.
You could also just go into the Bananza mode. You could just...
Yeah.
Like, at this point, you know how to activate the Kong Bananza, and so Kong Bananza can punch through concrete. So, and there's plenty... In your little makeshift arena where you fight the boss, there's plenty of stuff on the sides where if you need to replenish your gold to get the Bananergy, you can do that. There's also apples you can obtain to get health. It's very generous at this point in the game. Like, you're never really put out by the hardness of the boss. It's mostly, like you said, punchy, punchy, punchy. There's a little bit of strategy involved, but at this point, they don't want to demoralize you.
Yeah, and like as the first major level boss, that's fine, I suppose. Like, I can't think of a time where the first major level boss of a Mario game was particularly sophisticated in comparison. But I think on the whole, as you see more bosses, I just would like to see more out of these bosses if they're like gonna be that hard, or like presented in fiction as that hard. Grumpy Kong says it's his best work. Like, okay, dude. I mean, maybe you're not very good at this.
Yeah, I do like... Okay, two aspects I do appreciate about the boss fights in this game is you do get the like name card pops up, and it's branded at the bottom with the Voidco logo, which I love. It's just like, yeah, this is our intellectual property. Back off. You can't have a Pika Bruiser. This is owned. It's a registered trademark of Voidco. Deal with it. But yeah, I like that Grumpy Kong. This is a great aspect of having these three Voidco Kongs. Because they all have a certain role to play. Grumpy Kong is the Klungo of Voidco.
Yeah.
The monster maker. And he is basically the personality of the bosses, because the Pika Bruiser doesn't really matter. The Pika Bruiser is this Lovecraftian sex doll of a monstrosity that didn't exist seconds before it forms and won't exist after you bust it up. But the whole point of it is Grumpy Kong made it, and once you dispatch it, Grumpy Kong has a grumpy fit. Grumpy Kong just sits there and pouts. And I didn't understand.
I love Grumpy Kong.
I didn't understand why he was Grumpy Kong. When they were naming them in the Bananza Direct, I was like, Grumpy Kong? Like, it sounds like Snow White dwarf from Disney. Like, that's dumb. It's dumb. But I get it now, because he pouts when you defeat his creations. He's like, I thought for sure that was going to work, and he has a complete ego collapse, and he has a sad. He has a sad, and you're just there. You're just there interacting with Grumpy Kong, and he's just like, yeah, whatever, go. Whatever. I'm just going to sit here and be mad about it. And it's just such a petulant thing. Like, I'm not used to it. Like, I'm used to these enemies running away. I'm used to them, like, say, I'll get you next time. But no, Grumpy Kong just plants his ass down and says, fine, whatever. I'm done for now. I'm gonna sleep in tomorrow.
Yeah, the three enemy Kongs, I truly did not expect that a Nintendo-developed Donkey Kong game could have new characters that are added to the new... Like, this is the canon of Donkey Kong Kongs. I didn't think that Nintendo would ever go to adding a new one that I would like as much as the originals. But I love Grumpy Kong and I love Poppy Kong. I love them both. My NSO icon right now is the icon of Grumpy Kong. I just love that guy. He's a good one.
Yeah. I also appreciate that they do like have a presence in the game. one of my big things about 3D platformers is I want the villain's presence to be constantly felt. I want them to be characters. It's why I really like Banjo-Kazooie and how it interjects Gruntilda throughout your progression of the layer. You know and are reminded of Gruntilda. It's one of my criticisms towards Tooie is that the villains are kind of taken off the table after you get so far. You don't see them again until towards the end. And Donkey Kong 64, for all its faults, it has those cutscenes of K. Rool between each world, which I appreciate. So I like that these characters keep popping up in fun ways. It really makes them feel vibrant and fleshed out, which is important towards building a relationship with that character as a fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, you defeat the Pika Bruiser, and I like that all these characters show up around the sinkhole. You've got a little elevator there. You've got, like, the Style Shop monkey has shown up. Like, oh, you want to buy stuff real quick before you go through the sinkhole towards the next layer? And I like that.
Yeah.
The outfits you can buy, they do augment or can augment your skills. In this case, you can get red britches or swimmin' britches for Donkey Kong, where he can swim faster. You also have the Cyan Lagoon Vest, Lilac Lagoon Vest, or Green Lagoon Vest for Pauline. And I didn't put Donkey Kong in anything from this world. It would be a little bit later, and then I would finally give him britches. But I did put Pauline in the Green Lagoon Vest for a bit, which increased the sonar when in a Bananza, I think. So
There are a couple layers later in the game that I thought it would be fun to dress up for, but for the most part, I really didn't love changing the color of Donkey Kong's fur. That felt, I just want to see the character, right?
Yeah.
But I did actually quite like the starter, like immediate beginning of the game, regular suspender pants. Those are great. I actually put him in pants the whole time, but just those original pants. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Donkey Kong in pants with suspenders more often, just as his default look in stuff. I don't think there's been any merch or promotional art, or there might have been like a couple renders, but most of it is not with those pants. I like the pants for the guy. I think it's a fun addition to his character.
He's wearing britches now at my point in the game, but for a while there, I was just keeping him unadorned, free and breezy. But I did switch to the treasure tie, which I don't like the design of the treasure tie. Really hate it, actually. But it's very useful because you dig up more treasure chest, which if you're trying to 100% every layer as you go, you'll want a little bit of help there. So I do have Donkey Kong wearing the treasure tie, and it doesn't look so bad once you get him in some other clothes later on in the game. But yeah, it's not as fun dressing up Donkey Kong as it was Mario in Super Mario Odyssey, just because Mario, it's more fun to see in different outfits, where Donkey Kong, it's been so long since we've really seen him, and this is a new design too, so it doesn't feel as novel.
Yeah,
like messing with him.
Yeah, that's true. In Odyssey, even in Odyssey though, I shopped around until I got the cowboy costume for Mario, and I thought, this is my favorite one, I'll stop. And then I never changed his clothes again. And I just liked him being a cowboy for the whole game. And that's usually how I go with games with costumes like this. They introduce so many new costumes, and that's fun, but one of them is going to be my favorite, and then I'll stop changing them and then kind of disregard that whole feature of the game when they offer me more costumes.
Yeah, with Mario, it was the Diddy Kong costume for me in Odyssey.
Right, yeah, I can imagine.
Although when I got to New Donk City, then I felt a little conspicuous, so I changed into the New Donker suit because I was like, I I kind of like, I was having short man syndrome, and my ex-girlfriend is running the city, and I just feel like a clown wearing my Diddy Kong shirt. I'm gonna change.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mitchell, we have calls. Now, once again, I had to cut off the calls. I kept it to 5 calls, and they're pretty short, all things considered. But I am making a note of everybody who's called in. We will do a call sack eventually, as we go through our Bananza journey into the underground world. I appreciate everybody who calls in at 1-202-630-VINE 8463. But, we have a lot to say about this game, and we can't devote that much time to the calls. So I am limiting. We are getting quite a few calls, by the way. So no hard feelings if I don't pick your call. Just Andre is in our chat right now. Just Andre called in. I didn't get to choose Andre's call, and it was perfectly great call, but I already had my 5, and I was like, it's locked. So
real quick, because this is Lagoon Layer.
Yeah.
Just Andre has made a YouTube video where he's put the lyrics to the Kong Bananza song.
Uh-huh.
And it's very, very good. And this video of Andre's has gone viral, collecting hundreds of thousands of views because he's just gotten the lyrics so correct. So I recommend everyone go check out Kong Bananza lyrics, and you'll see Just Andre made it on YouTube.
That's
great. It's very good.
That's great. I don't know the lyrics to it yet.
You'll learn.
I've been avoiding clicking on anything Bananza related. I don't even go to YouTube's homepage anymore because I know I will get spoiled. So I've been very, very cautious, and I haven't seen stuff like this. I'm proud of you, Just Andre. I want to watch this video. But
yeah, and it has no spoilers beyond Lagoon Layer, he says, which is an important thing for this particular episode.
It is, because we have no spoilers beyond Lagoon Layer in this episode. But anyway, let's go ahead and play our first call, and then we'll share our thoughts about it, and so on and so forth, until we get to the 5th call. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Hello, Kongversation. This is everyone's favorite caller, Traveler of the Stars, Hyle and Mitchell. We're pulling Mitchell out of the doldrums. I'm happy to see Mitchell. I'm ready for this spicy episode, to quote his catchphrase. Yeah, I'm ready for this episode. When is the conversation, Hyle? You know how DK in this game, he sticks his tongue out and he has bananas, when he in his eyes and he sees a banana? That's me, except it's your face in my eyes when I see a conversation. Does that make any sense? Anyway, Lagoon Layer. Oh my gosh, this game looks gorgeous. You can say that about every layer, but there is just so much packed into just this one layer. It's just insane. I don't think this has really been discussed in the conversation yet about the Ask the Developer, but it is interesting that we did get confirmation that Bananza was started as a original Switch game, and it was deliberately pushed back to Switch 2. And I think that was the right call for sure. Everything just looks great. The music of this layer. Guys, the Kong Bananza layer. Now, spoilers. There's more than one Bananza, but we know that. The Kong Bananza may be my favorite, sounding Bananza. That has been stuck in my head. It's interesting that the developers, they started off just having the non-vocal track, but then it sounded so good that that's how they came around to adding Pauline, because they wanted some vocals in it. That's such a, creative kind of roundabout way Nintendo likes to do things, but I kind of like that. And it's interesting how they were we usually don't change the music when you get a power-up or something like that, but we kind of want it to be the Mario Invincibility star. So I thought that was interesting. The last thing I'll say, the Void Kong are just terrific. In just this one scene alone, spoilers, again, we're going to see them more throughout the game. I think Void Kong has already kind of emerged as a fan favorite of this game. And look, Conversation knows that I am a Retro Studios defender, but even I will admit that the Tiki Tap Tribe and the Snowmads are, I like both of them, but they're not amazing, right? But oh my gosh, in this one cutscene alone, like Void Kong he displays so much like character and emotion, and that was definitely a plus of having a character who can speak in English like Pauline, just like the dynamic between them. But we'll see more of them as we delve deeper into the game. But yeah, just a great first impression, like in terms of a full sub-layer or layer, whatever. You get it. Anyway, keep up the great work. I'm excited to hear more conversations, and yeah. I love Void Kong, and I'd love to see him again in future games.
Well, thank you for the call, Traveler of the Stars. Yeah, we didn't really talk about the cutscene that plays with all three Void Co. Members, but yeah, it's fun. I like that we do get, like, it establishes Void Kong from that little quick scene at the beginning of the game. He has dialogue, interacts with Pauline, and yeah, like, all three are very fun, but, yeah, I really like the Kong Bananza as well. I think it's a fun look for Donkey Kong. I like that we're not used to seeing Donkey Kong with black fur, like, most gorillas in nature. And, it's kind of a fun look. I think dark turbocharged Donkey Kong from Skylanders was the closest we got, but yeah, it's a good look. I love his bare ass. It's another aspect of simian kind that we don't often see in Donkey Kong games. The bare ass. We have it now. We can celebrate it now.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a bit more in some of the other Bananzas I won't name that I like in terms of character design. In terms of this, like, this is a Super Saiyan transformation is really what this is for Donkey Kong. I don't connect with it, but it is. Yeah, okay. No, I'll just say I think that the Bananzas in general were an opportunity to see animal buddies again, and it would have been nicer if this was if it was like a rhino, if it was a Rambi time. You don't turn into it. Maybe you just have a rhino that you're friends with. Maybe it's already in the game. So yeah, but they wanted to do some weird stuff to Donkey Kong's character model, and they achieved that. So I have to respect that at least a little bit.
Sure. I didn't think I would like the Bananza. I thought, like, oh, that's not my speed. It's not my thing. I'm not an anime guy. I'm Super Saiyan, whatever. It's like, the power levels have never been a thing for me. Like, I don't care. I don't care how strong a character is on some scale, on some metric, like, measuring chart. Like, oh, yeah, this character is more powerful than this character. It's bullshit. I don't care. But I think this is fun. I think tying in music, which has always been an element of the Donkey Kong series, going back to the abandoned NES game, but like really incorporated through the Rare era. And then, of course, we have the bongos, and like it's always been an aspect of Donkey Kong, and I appreciate that it continues to be such a big theme in Bananza, from Pauline to the Eterna table to the Kong Elder being an aspiring DJ,
Yeah, totally. And I don't know how much I liked the song before, but after Just Andre's video, now I really, really like the Kong Bananza song. So I do like that aspect of it.
Andre, you'll have to send me the link. I will click it. But not until after we play the next call. And then really the calls after that as well. But let's go and play our second caller.
Hello, Mitchell. Hello, Hyle. This is Kronax, calling in for a conversation about the full Lagoon layer. And boy, am I relieved that's the full Lagoon layer, because I might have misinterpreted something, or maybe you misspoke, but you seem to imply that you might be making an episode about every individual sublayer rather than just like the layer as a whole. It seemed a little extreme even for you, but no, we are doing the whole thing. And what a visually striking layer it is. I think the Lagoon layer is interesting in that it maybe plays the most with the idea that you are underground and using that to like explain some elements of the world's design. So it's got like a bright blue sky, and that's because like you're supposed to be directly under the ocean, so you're supposedly getting some light filtering through there, and you see things like reflections of like the ocean, like on top of some like on top of like the metal that you're standing on. Scrap metal itself is coming through things that like fell through the ocean. You see shipping containers, you see other forms of scrap metal. And interestingly, that's an element that you don't see a lot in some of the other layers. I think the Lagoon layer leans the most into being like under the surface, and how that, you could use that to build an interesting video game world, which maybe makes the most sense since it's the closest it would be able to interact the most with the surface. The further you go, the less you're going to get random stuff falling down. Finally, I want to give a shout out to a friend of the show, Just Andre, who had sort of a breakout hit interpreting the gibberish lyrics of Kong Bananza into English. He's gotten over 200,000 views on YouTube. And I think it's very nice and nostalgic, calling back to the days of like Caramel Dancing or the Smash Bros. Ball Latin opening intro, where we're just sort of inserting English lyrics in there for the fun of it. And maybe he will replicate that success with some of the other Bananzas. Who knows? Thank you for taking the call.
Well, thank you for
Getting
the call.
around.
Yeah, the shout out to Andre. See, I have been so sequestered from Bananza discourse to avoid getting spoiled that I'm missing out on some of the fun. Oh no.
You'll have it. You'll have that.
But yeah, no, thank you for the call. Yeah, like I agree with everything you said. I think the Lagoon layer is like, it is unique because we are relatively closer to home than the other layers, and you're able to have some of that bleed through from the surface here. But no, I was not going to do like an episode on Sublayer 101 or Sublayer 102. My God, Sublayer 102. No, I'm just titling these episodes this because I don't want to necessarily spoil like layer names even. It's just all in the design of being courteous to those who don't have the game or are like me and are severely broken inside and have to play it like they're playing Pokemon and they're leveling up their Pokemon outside of Pallet Town to level 100. Which Mitchell really likes how I play Pokemon.
Are you, when you first played through the first level of this game, how bare was it by the time you were done?
Not like I kept coming back. I would like stop playing out and come back, so all the terrain reset. So I never completely stripped it bare.
Gotcha.
But like I think I probably punched through everything eventually.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, thank you for the call. All right, let's play our third caller.
Hello, DKVine. It's Claire. The Lagoon layer is amazing as the first proper level of the game, and I could make call after call gushing about Bananza and how I think it's the best AAA game ever. But for the last couple of days, I've been reflecting on the Retro Studios era of Donkey Kong, and I should speak about what's currently on my mind. To a returns generation fangirl like me, you guys have always been a role model for me, embracing change while still celebrating the past. And for my first time with Donkey Kong, what I grew up with is no longer the most recent thing, and I'm not the newest generation of DK fan anymore. While I've been scared people will turn on those games, now that a better one's here, and even though I still love those games and think Tikis and Snowbeds are cool, I know that I can embrace the Donkey Kong series for what it is now, and not just what it used to be or could have been. So even if I had a dream where one of the nostalgia courses was themed after Bombs Away, one of my favorite levels from Returns, and woke up feeling dissatisfied that all the Retro Studios fans got was switcheroo goo and pig fossils, even though playing Bananza demo at Best Buy and then downloading the game at 9 p.m. doesn't hit the same as playing Tropical Freeze for the first time at PAX and begging my parents for a Wii U for Christmas, that's okay because I still love Bananza and this new era of Donkey Kong for what it is. And you guys being so accepting of every era of the franchise, not just what you grew up with, taught me that. So thank you, DKVine, and I look forward to listening and calling in for future episodes.
That's great.
Oh, well, yeah, thank you so much for the call, Claire. I'm glad you feel that way because so many people out there have this idea of what we're about and they just think that we hate anything that's not rare. And that's not true. That is certainly not true. Like any issues I had with the retro games didn't detract from my overall enjoyment and appreciation of the retro games. They're great. They're terrific, and I love so much of what they do. And Bananza, I'm honestly going to like it better than the retro games, I think, by the end of it. But that doesn't detract or take away from what those games mean to me. Returns and Tropical Freeze both mean so much to me, and so much to the DKVine staff and our audience. And it's just like, yeah, part of getting older is adapting to things not being like they were when you were a child. And especially when it's with your hobbies and any long running series or franchise, be it video games or books or movies that don't have a finite ending, that don't like just end at some point in your childhood or like teenage years or early adulthood years, and they just keep going alongside you. They're going to shift and they're going to evolve through the times and the eras to reflect the circumstances of the day. And you've got to ask yourself, is this still for me? Is this still something that I can appreciate like I appreciated when I was a kid? And I would say Donkey Kong and the larger DKU have done that for the most part. I will always have the most nostalgia and affection for the games that came out when I was of a certain age. I don't think Donkey Kong Country 2 will ever be displaced in my heart for what that game means to me because of when it came out. But I can look at something like Bananza and be like, wow, you know, this might be better than a lot of the games I adored when I was a kid.
Well, speaking of kids, though, it's just so great that I think a bunch of kids are going to use this game to get into gaming, like it used to be the case with Donkey Kong. I love Tropical Freeze so much, but it is designed to be very difficult.
Yes,
and
yes.
I think some kids are going to hang with that, but I think a much smaller group of kids are going to hang with that than a game like a Mario, where there's a much greater variety in difficulty between like the mainline stuff that you can kind of just do and the challenging stuff that might be at the end of the game or post game or whatever. This is finally another Donkey Kong game that, you know, I'm a gamesman with a capital man, and I'll play through Tropical Freeze. I can handle it. Yeah. But I want kids to like this. I want this to work like it previously did. And I think that kids growing up with Bananza now, if you're like between 5 and 12 and you're in your critical period for latching onto a video game, boy howdy, is this going to be the one. Because out of everything this year, or really the last few years, it is the game. It is the game for kids in that space. And there's a lot less competition in children's game media than there used to be. And I'm excited for 20 years from now hearing about, you know, games aren't like Bananza anymore. And it'll be a cycle again until they make another Donkey Kong re-Bananza, and then it's a whole different thing. And this time it's about you eat the ground. Yeah.
It's
so innovative.
Claire, if it makes you feel any better, though, you know, the retro stuff isn't necessarily going anywhere, because this is a full-throated reestablishing of Donkey Kong as a vital brand. And it's not just Bananza. I know Bananza is at the epicenter of games folk, the people who play the games. But we also have the Donkey Kong Country theme parks at Super Nintendo World that really trade on the retro iconography. We have the Super Mario Brothers movie, which will be spinning off a Donkey Kong movie, Untitled Donkey Kong Project or whatever. And that also incorporates a lot of the retro iconography. So,
yeah, that's kind of a mistake. But, you know.
No, but it's not going anywhere just by virtue of when those projects got off the ground, and that being the only, like, the most recent stuff to trade on. And, like, it's not going to be left behind because of those circumstances. But also because I think, like, as we've talked about on this episode, everything is back on the table. Everything is potential again. There's no era that's verboten. There's no forbidden Donkey Kong stuff that you can't touch unless it's actually owned by Rare. And then that's not really Donkey Kong, it's Diddy Kong Racing and everything spinning out of that. So, yeah, feel good about it. Feel good about it. Love the stuff from your childhood, but take the new stuff in as well. And that's how I still do this after over 25 years. And being through all the wild permutations of Donkey Kong, I'm still at it. I still love it.
Well, just look at how Nuts and Bolts didn't take over Banjo-Kazooie, right? Like, we'll always talk about the old stuff forever. As the retro games were coming out, none of the people who've ever appeared on this podcast stopped talking about the Super Nintendo games. It's going to be part of the story forever. And even just in the current market, Nintendo reissued a retro Donkey Kong Country this year. It was just January. It feels like forever ago. But that was just January when Returns HD came out.
I've got my Donkey Kong Country Returns HD sticky note cube right here. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that was recent.
That's so recent, yeah. I've got it right next to my Donkey Kong Bonanza rally towel that I just got.
Good old rally tally.
Rally, yeah. All right, let's play our fourth call.
Hi, Hyle. Hi, Mitchell. This is Brinstar Real Estate, or Rose. I'm calling in again to talk about the Lagoon Layer. So, I want to talk about those pipes. Those green pipes that are all over the place. I think it is so cool that you go through the pipes to get from Sublayer 100 to 101 and stuff. Like, you know, it's like that thing everyone talks about, everyone praises in Tropical Freeze, about how the platforms have, like, vines that are hanging from the tree or whatever that's keeping them up. They're not just floating in midair. They could have just said, okay, well, if you want to get from layer to layer, there's these big holes that are just up here because it's the big Voidco comet that went through there or whatever. But no, there's this big massive green metal and you're like going through the pipes with the water from layer to layer. I think that's so cool. It makes it feel more like a world, which, you know, I always love. And yeah, it is kind of subtle that it is a pipe. I feel like, that might be just because, you know, if it was a big green pipe made out of that green metal they use everywhere, that would be a little too close to Mario's turf, maybe. But yeah, I think it's great that they've got like this water pipe motif and you're diving through those to get from layer to layer. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Hope you enjoy talking about the Lagoon Layer and have a wonderful day, both of you.
Well, thank you so much for the call, Rose.
thank
Brinstar
you.
Real Estate. Yeah. We talked about the pipes and,
we did.
Yeah. And, this is a good point though. Like, there is this tangibility still to Donkey Kong's world, even in the underground world. Things are connected for the most part. Yeah, you occasionally get floating stuff. The Shifty stone floats, you know, and, there are allowances just like in any Donkey Kong game, but even the ropes that you can lower, here in Lagoon Layer, in fact, they have little helicopters on top to establish how they're floating. And I know Odyssey was a little bit more tangible than past Mario games, but it still operated within the logic of Mario, like depending on the kingdom, right? Metro Kingdom was a little bit more down to earth than some other kingdoms, but I really like that Bonanza does just like embrace that aspect of like everything kind of has a function in this world, just like in the Rare and Retro games.
Yeah, and like even taking something that very specifically is fantastical in Mario, being the green metal pipes, and saying like, okay, well they would be around, but why are they green? Oh, they're rusted copper. And like, why are they around so much? Like, oh, well, it is for plumbing, so let's show water being used with a warp pipe for the first time. It works, and it's gonna make me reevaluate that concept, that object. If I see them again in a Mario game, I'm like, oh, I know why that's green. It's rusted copper. I didn't think that before, and now I do, because I saw more detail and more realism in the Donkey Kong version of it.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you for the call. I like when the calls touch upon points that we discussed, but brings a new aspect into it that we didn't think to bring up. It always makes me feel both seen and outdone as a host, because I'm like, oh yeah, like we were on the right track. We just didn't get there completely. Granted, we have a lot to discuss more beyond the pipes, and so we have to cut ourselves off at some point, because
I would do another episode just about these pipes.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I mean, we're going to be spinning content out of this game for years, and I could see, like, eventually we'll start talking about infrastructure, right? And that'll be fun. It'll be infrastructure.
Well, hopefully after this Hyrule Warriors, Team Ninja makes a Kong Warriors, and we don't have to. Yeah. But we can. We can really just spend our time on the one game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about that. Like we talked about Claire's call, we're going to be talking about past games until we're in the ground. So, and I'm not talking about the underground world. I'm talking about our death. Thank you for the call. All right, well, one more call, and then this episode can die.
What's up, Hyle and Mitchell? It's Jackson. This would be potentially second time caller. But, man, I know everybody's going to be calling in. Everybody's so excited, so I'll try and keep it a little bit short. But we're talking about the Lagoon Layer. I keep saying Lagoon Layer, but it's Lagoon Layer. And one of my favorite moments in this, I'll just get right to it. And also, well, real quick, I just love the way that you're doing it with the content of just going one layer at a time, because I got the game pretty late, and this is like I'm kind of just starting out. So right now, my favorite memory with the game so far is after the boss fight in Lagoon Layer. You get to see Grumpy Kong, and he's just sitting there. And I have a screenshot right here. I'm looking at it. He goes, "I'll finish the job next time. Bet on it." But seriously, it was just that little touch of having him there that after the fight, like, he could have easily just not been there because empty, but it really made me just I just loved the characters. I was worried they would be like the Brutals from Mario Odyssey. Kyle, I'm happy now you can understand what that means. But yeah, I was really happy with that little touch, just including him there, folding his arms after he's defeated. And I like that Donkey Kong is kind enough that he's not gonna, just beat him up. I mean, I punched him a little bit while he was sitting there, but, but yeah, we'll fight him again later, right? But yeah, anyway, I had two little questions. One was just like, is there any other like NPC or even just like a favorite little moment that you had in the layer? And then my second one, just real quick, I love Mario Odyssey. I'm so excited for even just the Hyle talking about Mario Odyssey episode down the line, but that you potentially mentioned doing. But man, I'm a bit younger. I still grew up with a GameCube, but I had no idea Wario had a 3D game. So I know we're definitely DK fans over here, but if you had to pick another franchise like a Yoshi or a Wario or something to do a 3D, kind of like they do with Kirby, I'd love if they keep doing these and just expanding. But yeah, I also want Diddy Kong Racing 2 with Grumpy Kong in it. So yeah, what do you think about all those? Oh my god, I love the game.
Yeah. Thank you for the call, Jackson.
I would definitely play Grumpy Kong Racing for sure.
No, again, I like when the calls touch upon points we brought up. Grumpy Kong's little shit fit there. That's great. But as far as your questions go, little moments, we already complained about like the NPCs not being like characters unto themselves and kind of being this mass collective, but like one element, one moment I did like was, and this is just me, the salvager monkey who says, "I just moved in." And then I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to destroy your home then.
Yeah.
And I'm being like so careful to not smash the terrain directly next to it because I know it'll have that ripple effect. And I was like, no, I'll stay. So I like that because it put me on my toes and it made me think about what Donkey Kong would do in this circumstance if he's directly confronted with a new homeowner.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite NPCs in this level were just the appearances of all the Kongs and DK and Cranky. Well, not DK, that's not an NPC, but Cranky and the Voidco.
Yeah.
If I were to pick one specific salvager monkey, I do like the one that talks about the whale fossil and was like, yeah, it's like one of those whales. We have a lot of respect for whales down here. It's a big deal.
Yeah, you know.
We like them.
Yeah. I can relate. I have a lot of respect for the whales too on the surface sea. Yeah. As far as your other question goes, like 3D platformers taking characters who don't normally get 3D platformers. Well, I think Bananza's different because Bananza's part of a like effort to rebuild the Donkey Kong brand. I don't think it's so much like let's take characters from the greater Mario sphere or who are associated with Mario and give them their own 3D platformers. Like, I don't think it's that, you know. It's possible, you know, down the line we'll get Yoshi or Wario or I don't know.
Yeah, well, Yoshi, so a couple years ago we got the Kirby one, right?
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of a trend where I think that Nintendo is finally feeling the pressure of, oh, if we keep these things 2D, the rest of the gaming industry is going to get so far ahead of them that maybe it's not going to look cute anymore. So Kirby that is now a full 3D platformer, even if it is like a very linear, a little bit of a smaller scale game, certainly compared to something like Bananza, and now Donkey Kong having that too. I think that could be something that we might be looking forward to in the future as well. We haven't heard hide nor hair of a new Yoshi game since Goodfeel started working on Princess Peach Showtime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they're kind of in our situation, or what our situation was for the longest period, where I don't think they have a home, Yoshi fans. So best of luck to them. I don't know where it would come from if they do get a 3D Yoshi game.
Yeah. Like honestly though, like I'm the wrong person to ask as far as Nintendo goes. Like I'm thinking, what 3D platformer do I want? Oh, Banjo-Kazooie. You know? So my loyalties are skewed there, but like I do think that Donkey Kong having a new 3D platformer has long been overdue. I mean, they were talking about this potentiality even before the retro era. Like Camelot was talking about what would be one of their dream games, and that was a sequel to Donkey Kong 64. And every so often, every couple of years, you'd get a new interview with somebody, and they'd be like, yeah, maybe we could do 3D Donkey Kong again. And I mean, we finally got it. They finally pushed for it, and it happened, and thank God it did, because I've often said, I don't need Donkey Kong to be a huge brand again. I just want to have steady, reliable releases that sell well enough, like Kirby. You know, like no shade or disrespect to Kirby, but you know, Kirby has just been a reliable workhorse of a franchise for decades now. And a Kirby game,
but even Kirby, like it was stuck in 2D for so long.
Until
it got its final 3D.
That's what I'm saying though. Like even that, like I would have been okay with just having perpetual 2D Donkey Kong games so long as we got Donkey Kong games. I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting not only to get this big, massive game, but for it to be the toast of the town, for it to tap into something that is just almost universal again, to the extent that Bananza's doing. This is more than I ever asked for or had hoped for at this point. Obviously, I could daydream about any potentiality for Donkey Kong down the road, but it would just be daydreams. It would just be errant fantasies that would pop into my head. To actually be here, I'm kind of stupefied, and I still feel like I'm going to wake up and it's all going to have been a dream.
Honestly, if you want the one other than Yoshi, like the big Nintendo franchise that feels like it can't have a modern thing that like takes full advantage of modern AAA video game scale and scope and quality, it probably would be Star Fox. That's like the biggest thing that can't seem to make it in the modern era. Yeah. Donkey Kong is now there. Kirby's now there. Mario and Zelda have always been there. Pikmin kind of started as something that doesn't feel old, and Animal Crossing is happy with what it is. Splatoon started big too. Yeah, like Yoshi and Star Fox, I think would be the ones to look out for if there's any kind of possibility of it.
You know what? I know I'm just like repeating talking points elsewhere, but I would be kind of pumped if Retro got a crack at Star Fox.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see Retro do anything. It's been 11 years since their last game.
But
so,
as a general DKU fan, given the kind of weird crossover that exists between Star Fox and Donkey Kong, if Retro's not doing Donkey Kong anymore, keep them in the mix. Keep them in my neck of the woods and have them do Star Fox. I'd be excited.
They are a great studio. I'm excited to play Prime 4 when it comes out. Man, that game has been announced for 8 years. And when it comes out, it's like, I feel like it should feel like such a bigger deal than it currently feels like. I think Donkey Kong kind of ate its lunch a little bit.
Yeah, and I hate that just because of, again, the intertwined history between Donkey Kong and Metroid. And we've talked about it in the last episode, but it's just humorous that the discourse around Tropical Freeze should have been Metroid Prime 4. And then in the time between Tropical Freeze and the actual Metroid Prime 4, we also got this stellar 3D Donkey Kong game. Oops. Yeah. Checking in with the live stream one last time. Hello to FizzTap, by the way. I've seen you in there. I just haven't been able to respond. Freezer says, closest thing we had to 3D Yoshi was Mario 64 DS. And then just Andre said, I think you mean ukulele. And just the banana in my pocket says, Nintendo clung to the 2D revival trend way too long. I feel like the Switch forced their hand to focus more on 3D games to make their games stand out from the mobile space, or risk Switch look like a 3DS successor rather than a full console. Yeah, I can see that. Although I do want to say there's nothing wrong with 2D games. I think they are looked down upon a little bit too much as like, oh, they're cheap, not as much effort put into that. And that is completely not the case. Although it is fair to say that in the marketplace, a 3D game will make a far bigger impact than a 2D game.
Yeah, and it's rough because even outside of like our group, our fandom, I think the game that came out of Nintendo in 2 dimensions that like took the most advantage of being a 2D game and having, just by the nature of being 2D, like the advantage you get is tighter level design, clearer gameplay, gameplay that just feels like you are gaming. Like it gets so much more loose when you go into 3D, right?
Right. The
game that took the most advantage of it and did the like most standout job of being a 2D game was Tropical Freeze. So even this series that was doing the 2D thing, I think the best out of Nintendo's franchises at the very least. Some indie things were doing even better, but that's, they have more freedom to do whatever they want. Even that series, even Donkey Kong, very provably explode far further when it was able to do 3D stuff. I'm forgetting how to talk. It's been a long episode.
It's been a very long episode, and for those asking why we're doing this, I know like Jackson called in and said they appreciate how I'm structuring this. I know it's frustrating to a lot of people because they want us to get to the fireworks factory. And I'm like, it's going to take us nearly 4 hours to discuss Lagoon Layer. There's no way I can speed up this process because I have so much to say. My co-hosts have so much to say. I mean, this was the Mitchell showcase, right? This is Mitchell Wolfe coming in and saying in the gamesman, capital man, way, like what makes not just this layer tick, but what makes Bananza tick in a very special way. And I kind of have to take a step back and let my co-host have their say, which is, Mitchell, you lived up to your end of the bargain on this episode. What can I knew.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on. It was great. I love this level, and I love this game, and I love this podcast, and yeah.
You have such an interesting mind in that you have probably the correct mind to discuss video games.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Like I said, I am a clown. I am a circus attraction. And
you're fine.
No.
You're fine, buddy.
I realize the way I approach games and think about games is incorrect, but it's how I have been malformed. I am broken. I am like what happens when you throw dirt at a fractone. That's a spoiler. Oops. I shouldn't. For more on that, tune in to the next episode where Matt Corna will join us to discuss Sublayer 200 of Donkey Kong Bananza. But yeah, Lagoon Layer is pretty all right.
It's pretty good. Matt Corna? Oh man, this episode sucks now.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.